As the red light glowed, Jiang Chaoyang dashed down the left branch. But the corridor looked exactly the same, and he felt like he was running in circles. This place was a complete copy and paste. Just as he rounded a bend, someone ahead made him come to an abrupt halt. The man seemed to be waiting for him, leisurely raising his hand as if teasing a cat or a dog. "Hello there, little cutie. Tired of running?" The man wore black and was tall and lean, standing out starkly against the white surroundings. Jiang Chaoyang ignored him and turned to run back. But just as he turned the corner, he collided with a solid chest. He stumbled back a few steps before regaining his balance and looked up to see another man in black, identical to the first. Jiang Chaoyang was shocked. "How can you teleport like that?" The man who had bumped into him smiled, handsome but with a dangerously sly look. "Because there are two of me," Fan Mixi said. Jiang Chaoyang stiffly turned his head to look behind him. In the distance down the corridor, the man who had waved was calmly approaching, closing in step by step. "Ending this so soon? Boring," Fan Mixi said. At that moment, Jiang Chaoyang moved. He didn't retreat but ran straight at Fan Mixi. Fan Mixi had never seen prey charge at him. "Want to beg for mercy? I prefer when you kneel and beg me." "Fine by me," Jiang Chaoyang replied with a grin. Surprise flickered in Fan Mixi's eyes before turning into interest. He spread his arms, ready to catch Jiang Chaoyang and see what kind of last-ditch struggle he would put up. Just as Jiang Chaoyang was about to crash into Fan Mixi, he shifted his body to one side, planted his left foot against the wall for leverage, vaulted into the air, and swung his right leg in a spinning kick aimed hard at the back of Fan Mixi's head. Fan Mixi ducked quickly to avoid it, but the gust of the kick grazed his neck. Though it missed the target directly, the sound of bones cracking rang out sharply. Jiang Chaoyang landed without hesitation and sprinted toward the unlocked path. He glanced back, raised his middle finger, and taunted, "Noob. Practice more." Time seemed to freeze. Fan Mixi clutched his neck and slowly straightened up. Crack! The sound of his bones aligning echoed. A dangerous aura radiated from him, and his smile only grew wider. It wasn't a happy smile but one of excitement bordering on madness, his cheeks flushing rapidly, spreading even to the corners of his eyes. "Ah!" His eyes widened, pupils trembling as he stared fixedly in the direction Jiang Chaoyang had disappeared. Beside him, Fan Mixi showed no concern. Instead, as if infected, he licked his dry lips, his eyes shining with the same excitement. Fan Mixi said, "Damn him. Take him down?" Fan Mixi lowered his hand, voice light but icy. "This bastard." Jiang Chaoyang ran for his life with all his might. No matter if there was a dead end, he sprinted full speed. The corridor doors wouldn't open, he had nowhere to hide. He started to suspect this place was a maze. Suddenly, a distinct light appeared ahead, different from the corridor's lighting. Without hesitation, Jiang Chaoyang dashed toward it. The sound of glass clashing rang out. 2 test tubes filled with liquids of different colors poured into a beaker, mixing into a black substance. Bang! A loud noise echoed at the door, it slammed shut. The man holding the beaker turned to look at the door. "Who are you?" Gasping for breath, Jiang Chaoyang leaned against the door and instinctively looked up when he heard the voice. The lab's cold white lights illuminated various instruments, and a sharp chemical smell filled the air. A man in a white lab coat stood by the lab bench, dark circles under his eyes, his expression tired and gloomy. Jiang Chaoyang looked at him and felt he didn't seem like an enemy. He scratched his face awkwardly, trying to appear harmless. I'm just here for a tour?" His eyes scanned around, searching for a place to hide. The lab was full of equipment, no hiding spots in sight. "This isn't a place you should be. Get out," the man said impatiently. Jiang Chaoyang's mind raced, he was about to make up an excuse. Suddenly, the door behind him burst open on both sides. Jiang Chaoyang quickly steadied himself and stepped back. Fan Mixi glanced lazily over Jiang Chaoyang, then looked at the man in the lab coat. "Doctor we're just picking someone up and then we'll leave. Hope you don't mind?" The man ignored them. Fan Mixi stepped toward Jiang Chaoyang, warning, "Don't try to run. The other areas are way worse than this." Jiang Chaoyang scoffed, "Yeah, right." Fan Mixi smiled, "It's true." Before Jiang Chaoyang could react, Fan Mixi grabbed his waist and hoisted him onto his shoulder. "Let's go." Fan Mixi headed for the door without looking back, waving his hand. Jiang Chaoyang's stomach hurt from being carried, and he struggled desperately but to no avail. Fan Mixi sneered beside him, "Nice kick earlier. Hope you still have some fight left." Jiang Chaoyang sneered back, "Kicking you is a piece of cake." He tried to memorize the route, but the environment was full of similar corners. He gave up. The two stopped in front of a white metal door. Fan Mixi pressed the scanner. Beep, the door slid open silently. Inside, bluish lights glowed softly. Consoles and screens flickered, and a huge transparent partition took up most of the space. Behind it was a blank white room. A man wearing a light-colored trench coat sat in a swivel chair. Hearing the door, he turned his head and coldly scanned the two before looking at the man being carried, Jiang Chaoyang. "What did you bring this time?" "Checking his pheromones. Just caught him. Pretty wild." Miao Xiaoyu returned to the console and tapped on the keyboard a few times. Jiang Chaoyang set his feet on the ground, alertly scanning the room. His gaze landed on the transparent partition, and his heart tightened. What do you want to do? The partition silently slid open a door. Before Jiang Chaoyang could back away, Fan Nixie pushed him inside with a teasing tone. Behave yourself and stay in there. The door quietly closed behind him. Time is precious. It's best to bring useful specimens. Niao Xiuyu said coldly, eyes half shut. Jiang Chaoyang pounded his fist against the partition, it didn't budge. Niao Xiuyu remained expressionless. Looks like your specimen isn't much use. Fan Mizai chuckled, he nearly broke my neck with that kick. Later, we'll make sure he doesn't even have the strength to talk. Niao Xiuyu propped his head with one hand, manipulating the data console with the other. Is that all you've got? Fan Nixie met his gaze coldly. You're no different. Niao Xiuyu sneered, boring. Jiang Chaoyang couldn't catch all their words, but judging by their expressions, their intentions weren't good. He paced the room but found no weaknesses. He leaned against the wall, arms crossed, staring at the three not far away. Niao Xiuyu pulled up a real-time monitoring interface. The data was stable, with slight fluctuations due to Jiang Chaoyang's emotions, but all within expected parameters. He commented indifferently, mediocre. Fan Nixie agreed, after all, he's just an ordinary alpha. No sooner had he spoken than the pheromone concentration curve suddenly spiked sharply. The value rapidly soared past the normal alpha limit and kept climbing. Niao Xiuyu's eyes snapped open. He leaned forward, hands hovering over the keyboard, staring at the astonishing data surpassing all limits. Fan Mizai noticed Niao Xiuyu's subtle reaction and looked at the screen. What's wrong? Fan Nixie leaned in close, eyes fixed on the record-breaking numbers. Are you kidding? He's just a regular alpha, yet his pheromone concentration is higher than an S rank? Jiang Chaoyang noticed their intense focus on the data and felt a stir of suspicion. Niao Xiuyu quickly typed commands, activating the pheromone sampling program. A low, humming sound filled Jiang Chaoyang's ears. Instantly alert, he nervously glanced around. The progress bar began to load but soon started to fluctuate, as if encountering severe interference, causing the data to instantly become chaotic. Niao Xiuyu frowned and sped up her keystrokes, but it was to no avail. After flickering several times, the progress bar stopped, and an error message popped up on the screen. Extraction failed, target pheromone exhibits an unknown repulsive force field, locking impossible. The console's indicator lights flashed erratically. Fan Mizai straightened up, sneering, dropping the ball at a critical moment. What a joke. Fan Nixie approached the isolation chamber. System malfunction isn't on us. Let's get the person out first. The transparent door slid open again. Jiang Chaoyang fixed his gaze on the doorway, wary of a possible attack. The door opened, and two people strolled in casually. As Fan Mizai reached out to grab him, Jiang Chaoyang suddenly ducked forward, elbowing Fan Nixie's abdomen and sweeping his right foot to trip Fan Mizai. Still not playing nice? Fan Nixie moved faster, locking Jiang Chaoyang's waist in a tight grip. Fan Mizai blocked Jiang's punch and smoothly twisted his wrist. At the same time, Fan Nixie hooked his leg, causing Jiang Chaoyang to lose balance and be pinned down by both. He fell to the ground, hands caught and raised above his head. Fan Nixie and Fan Mizai pressed their knees against his legs. You two ganging up on me, ashamed much? Jiang Chaoyang shouted angrily, struggling to move. We're not using pheromones. Fan Nixie licked his lips with a smirk. We like watching you struggle. Pheromones would ruin the fun, Fan Mizai said, one hand gripping Jiang's neck as he whispered, like choking? Jiang's mouth twitched. Cut the crap. If you want to strangle me, just say it. Fan Nixie smiled and reached out, pressing his thumb against Jiang's chin and slowly tightening the hold. Choking triggers adrenaline rushes, different kind of thrill. Want to try? I'm not. Before he could finish, footsteps echoed. Jiang lifted his head to see a pair of leather shoes stopping just above him. The hem of a pale trench coat and sharply creased pants came into view. Niao Xiuyu had somehow left the console, hands casually in his pockets, the lab's cool blue light sketching his cold profile. He said in a low voice, he stays with me. Fan Nixie and Fan Mizai froze mid-move. A few seconds later, they looked up at Niao Xiuyu as if they'd heard a ridiculous joke. Ha! Niao Xiuyu explained, his pheromones can't be extracted. This anomaly requires observation. He stays. Observation? Fan Nixie tilted his head with a smirk. He increased the pressure, eliciting a muffled grunt from Jiang. He's ours to bring back. Why does your word override that? Yeah. Fan Mizai tightened his grip slightly, fingertips tracing Jiang's artery. You stepping in now isn't exactly by the book, is it? Jiang gasped for breath. Can you two stop taking it out on me? Niao Xiuyu glanced coldly at them, emotionless. He didn't argue further but looked back at Jiang Chaoyang, tossing him a choice. Go with them, or stay. Pick one. Jiang looked confused. Niao Xiuyu added, with me, at least I won't just think about tormenting you. I'm more focused on research. It sounded like concern, but Jiang felt something off. You two aren't exactly better, though, Jiang said helplessly. Fan Nixie snorted. We'd rather hand him over to Dr. Yu than you. That name rang a faint bell for Jiang. Taking advantage of the tense moment, Jiang stared at Miao Xiuyu. I'll stay, but on one condition. Both men furrowed their brows. Miao Xiuyu blinked slightly. Speak. You can't treat me like they do. No harmful experiments. Miao Xiuyu studied him quietly for a few seconds. Jiang braced for rejection, but instead, Miao simply said, fine. Jiang was stunned. Really agreed? That easy? The room fell silent for over 10 seconds. Fan Mixi and Fan Mizai released their grip, exchanged malicious grins, and Fan Mixi stood up. If you want your conditions met, don't expect us to take you away. They left, leaving only Jiang Chaoyang and Miao Xiuyu. Jiang propped himself up slowly, rubbing his sore wrist, eyes sharp on Miao Xiuyu. Miao had agreed to terms seemed more reasonable than the twins? Miao Xiuyu seemed thoughtful as he walked to the console. Jiang relaxed until Miao suddenly stopped. Without looking back, he pressed a button on the console. Click. A cold band slid from the wall and snapped precisely around Jiang's neck. Jiang rushed to touch the collar. What are you doing? Don't expect me to release pheromones for you. Only then did Miao Xiuyu turn slowly. He watched Jiang's futile struggle and the locked collar with a faint curve at the corner of his mouth. That expression made Jiang's skin crawl. It was not a smile. Miao Xiuyu walked over slowly, speaking softly, unlike those others treating you like that, I can. He stopped, slightly bowed his head, and his fingers gently brushed the skin at the edge of the collar. My way is quieter. It won't hurt you either, he added, his fingers sliding down the collar. I'll be careful to keep you intact, at least until the data collection is complete. Jiang Chaoyang was speechless. He finally understood what Fan Mixi meant. Fan Mixi and Fan Mizai were the obvious violence, while Miao Xiuyu was a scarier madman hidden beneath his calm logic. Miao Xiuyu returned to the console. The screen showed the collar connected successfully, and data began to transmit. Jiang Chaoyang followed behind, scanning the surroundings, his mind racing. Without turning around, Miao Xiuyu asked, how does it feel wearing it? Jiang Chaoyang was silently plotting his route, replying coldly, what else could it feel like? You're happy putting a collar on my neck? No reaction from Miao Xiuyu. He asked, dizzy? No. Tired? No. No pheromone diversion detected. Looks like the collar's extraction function doesn't work on you. The repulsion field is always active. Jiang Chaoyang suddenly stared at Miao Xiuyu's back. Meaning, it can't extract his pheromones? Unless you release them yourself, extraction won't work, Miao Xiuyu said calmly, fingers flying over the keyboard, focused on adjusting parameters. A shadow suddenly flashed by. Bang! A dull, heavy bang exploded inside the lab. Miao Xiuyu's body jerked forward, collapsing onto the console. Blood gushed from his temple and hairline, staining his collar and the desk red. Jiang Chaoyang dropped the drawer, looking at Miao Xiuyu lying on the ground, unsure if he was unconscious or dead. He spun around and dashed toward the door. Luckily, it wasn't locked and opened automatically. Jiang Chaoyang found himself back in that repetitive, copy-pasted corridor. Could there be anything more hopeless than this? He turned left and right, past countless identical junctions, completely disoriented. Unsure how long he'd been running, Jiang Chaoyang felt like he was going in circles. In the distance, a slightly open door caught his attention. He rushed over but couldn't stop in time and bumped inside. A familiar smell hit him, strong chemical reagents, and a man in a white lab coat stood with his back to him. The man stopped when he heard the intrusion, set down a dropper, and turned around. Again, it's you? Jiang Chaoyang awkwardly scratched his head, smiling, I'm just here to visit again. Believe it or not? The man was speechless. Jiang Chaoyang asked, are you Dr. Yu? What do you want with me? Jiang Chaoyang shook his head. Just asking. Footsteps came from the distance, heading straight for the lab door. Jiang Chaoyang's hairs stood on end as he abruptly turned. A figure appeared. Miao Xiuyu pressed one hand to his head, blood seeped through his fingers, staining the cuff. Seems they weren't wrong about me. He swept back his blood-soaked hair, eyes fixed tightly on Jiang Chaoyang, his steps steady. A strange smile curled at the corner of his mouth. Blood-stained face and that smile, it was eerie and terrifying, like the joy of finding a missing experimental subject. Jiang Chaoyang instinctively stepped back, his back hitting the cold lab bench. Glassware chimed softly. Miao Xiuyu ignored the man beside him and the bleeding wound, steadily closing in. How should I deal with a disobedient test subject? Jiang Chaoyang knew it was over. An absurd thought flashed through his mind, and he blurted out, wait. Take care of the wound on your head first. He forced a tone of concern. I hit you hard, you're bleeding a lot. The air suddenly froze. Miao Xiuyu stopped. The man beside him also froze briefly, seemingly not expecting that. Jiang Chaoyang stared at Miao Xiuyu, palms sweating. He didn't know if this would work or only make things worse. Miao Shouyu's gaze slowly dropped to the bloodied fingers, then lifted to lock eyes with Jiang Chaoyang. After a few tense seconds, just as Jiang Chaoyang was about to break the silence, Miao Shouyu's said flatly, "I'm not buying it." Back in Miao Shouyu's lab, Jiang Chaoyang's heart pounded like a drum. Suddenly, images of being gutted and blood drawn for testing flashed through his mind. But since Miao Shouyu's wanted to extract his pheromones, he had to release them voluntarily. So, Miao Shouyu's wouldn't be that cruel to him, right? In the spirit realm, Jiang Chaoyang suddenly caught a whiff of blood. Miao Shouyu's reached out, gently brushing the side of his neck. The cold touch sent chills all over Jiang Chaoyang's skin. "The collar isn't just for tracking and monitoring," Miao Shouyu's said calmly. "What?" "For example, simulating pheromone induction." Miao Shouyu's fingertips pressed lightly on the collar's interface. Jiang Chaoyang's body immediately tensed, but instead of the expected sharp pain, he felt a subtle tingling sensation spreading from the collar's contact point, like countless tiny electric currents penetrating beneath his skin. "Damn, what the hell is this?" He gritted his teeth and grabbed the collar, trying to ease the strange sensation. Suddenly, a synthetic pheromone was released from the collar. The scent carried a strong sense of oppression and provocation, perfectly triggering an instinctive discomfort. It was like someone constantly tickling the most sensitive spot with a feather, annoying and on edge, but with no outlet for frustration. This half-stimulation, half-torture feeling was even more unbearable than pain. Jiang Chaoyang's breathing quickened, his cheeks flushed, purely a physiological reaction. Miao Shouyu's watched his changes closely, leaning in slightly as if sniffing the pheromones in the air. "The repulsion field is still active." He paused, then said, "But your reaction is very genuine." Jiang Chaoyang turned his face away, avoiding eye contact. Miao Shouyu's took a step back, pressed his hand against the wall, and a recessed panel opened to reveal another door. Jiang Chaoyang's eyes widened as he saw a brightly lit, disinfectant-scented room with medicine cabinets and medical equipment lining the walls. Miao Shouyu's sat down in the examination chair and looked at Jiang Chaoyang, who was standing dumbfounded at the door. "Come here." "For what?" Miao Shouyu's pointed to his own head. "Treat the wound." Jiang Chaoyang could hardly believe it. His head had just been cracked open, and now this guy wanted him to treat it? A twitch formed at the corner of his mouth, twisting into a sarcastic smile. "Aren't you afraid I'll open your head again? This time I won't hold back." Miao Shouyu's expression was calm. "Go ahead and try. You want Fan Mixie and Fan Mazai to throw you to them?" That left Jiang Chaoyang speechless. He hesitated while stepping forward, picked up a cotton swab soaked in iodine, and looked at the bleeding wound. Feeling awkward and unsure where to start, he finally couldn't hold back. "Maybe you should just go to a hospital for a couple stitches?" Careless words hurt the most. Miao Shouyu's looked up. "Don't you realize who hit me?" Jiang Chaoyang rolled his eyes. "Who threatened my safety? I was just defending myself." "Honestly, you had it coming. Then why did you even care after hitting me? You think I'm some kind of submissive?" Jiang Chaoyang was about to say, "I just wanted to distract you, I didn't really care," but swallowed the words. "Fine, just consider me treating you like a submissive." Suddenly, Miao Shouyu's lifted his leg and hooked Jiang Chaoyang's ankle with the tip of his shoe. The latter immediately lost his balance. With a dull thud, Jiang Chaoyang's knee hit the floor, his upper body leaning forward, and his hands instinctively landed on Miao Shouyu's thighs. The position was awkward, he was kneeling right between Miao Shouyu's legs. Miao Shouyu's remained seated, looking down at Jiang Chaoyang as if he hadn't just tripped him. "You do your thing, I'll do mine." Jiang Chaoyang was speechless. A real man knows when to bend and when to stand. He got up. "All right, I get it, you're not someone to mess with." Just as he finished speaking, his ankle was hooked again, and he fell to his knees once more. "What the hell do you want?" Jiang Chaoyang swung a punch at Miao Shouyu's, but the other easily caught his wrist and twisted it behind his back. Miao Shouyu's bent slightly, one hand gripping his wrist tightly, preventing him from standing up. "Who do you think is better suited to be submissive?" Jiang Chaoyang was down to one free hand and couldn't support himself. He sighed in resignation. "Can't I just joke around?" "Then who do you think should be dominant?" Jiang Chaoyang was at a loss, not wanting to continue the topic. "As long as you're fine with it, just let me go." At that moment, there was a noise outside the door. Someone leaned against the doorframe, one hand in his pocket, the other holding a folder, tapping on the door. Jiang Chaoyang recognized him and was so shocked he forgot to struggle. Han Shirquan seemed not to notice his expression or deliberately ignored it, raising an eyebrow with a mocking smile. "Sorry to interrupt. Looks like your head wound isn't too serious." Miao Shouyu's asked, "What's the matter?" Just got a notice about his follow-up observation process. You need to go to Area 1 to report. Miao Xiuyu was silent for a few seconds, then finally released Jiang Chaoyang's wrist. After the door closed, only Jiang Chaoyang and Han Shirquan remained in the room. Jiang Chaoyang was so angry he could barely breathe. He stormed forward. Don't tell me you used to work for the SA agency? Han Shirquan stopped, his smile fading, and answered calmly, yeah. So those missing alphas outside, they're all you're doing? Han Shirquan nodded. Yes. Jiang Chaoyang completely lost it, grabbing Han Shirquan's collar and slamming him against the wall. Isn't this murder? Han Shirquan frowned and patted Jiang Chaoyang's tense arm. You're mistaken. He stared at Jiang Chaoyang and said slowly, those submissive alphas came willingly. Jiang Chaoyang's anger was instantly doused, skeptical. Who would believe that? Who would want to be locked up like a lab rat? Han Shirquan grabbed Jiang Chaoyang's wrist and stepped closer. Their footsteps echoed in the empty room. The SA agency offers them protection, preventing them from being exploited or harmed by the outside world. It's a deal, a mutually beneficial arrangement. This is segment 25/30. Please process the following content logically, maintaining the original paragraph structure, line breaks, and overall layout. Return only the processed result. Jiang Chaoyang simply didn't believe it. If it's voluntary, then why have you caught me multiple times? Han Shuqian smiled faintly, revealing sharp tiger teeth. He hooked his arm around Jiang Chaoyang's waist, preventing him from stepping back. Who said the ones catching you are from the SA agency? Jiang Chaoyang's eyes widened, frozen in place. After hearing Han Shuqian's explanation, Jiang Chaoyang was completely stunned. The ones capturing him were from another organization, the E agency. The E agency had been trying unsuccessfully to capture him for a long time, which sparked the SA agency's interest. They wanted to see what abilities he had, so they brought him here. The instigators were Fan Mixi and Fan Nijai. But the SA agency was far from benevolent. They were ruthless towards soothing-type alphas. Although he came voluntarily, he was still treated as a test subject, with his pheromones continuously extracted. The difference was that the SA agency wouldn't let them lose their pheromone function entirely, whereas the E agency would kill them outright. Neither side was good, but comparatively, choosing the SA agency allowed them to barely survive and avoid being caught by the E agency. Both sides were developing S-level inhibitors because they belonged to opposing factions. Whoever succeeded first could threaten the other. Jiang Chaoyang rubbed his forehead. So you're saying the SA agency is protecting me? But their actions don't seem like they're helping. Han Shuqian sneered coldly, I told you before, the S-levels are all crazy. Expecting them to treat you well? Don't be naive. Jiang Chaoyang was helpless. Forget it, how long do I have to stay here? Until they develop the inhibitor. Jiang Chaoyang scratched his head. So I still have to help them? What if I don't give them my pheromones? It doesn't matter if you don't. They won't be able to extract anything anyway. Han Shuqian leaned closer, his blue eyes full of teasing. But Miao Xiuyu has already reported this. They might speed up research on you. Jiang Chaoyang was speechless but also puzzled. Why couldn't they extract his pheromones? Could there be a bug in the system? Suddenly, an idea struck him. Could it be that Ling Yuan gave him a hidden advantage? That explanation made the most sense, but then again, he wasn't Ling Yuan's host, how could he have a buff? After a moment of silence, Jiang Chaoyang asked, what about you? What? Will you treat me the same way they do? Jiang Chaoyang stared at Han Shuqian, trying to find something different in his eyes. Han Shuqian didn't answer immediately. He reached out and gently stroked the collar around Jiang Chaoyang's neck, his fingertips tracing the cold metal, and said in a low voice, I'm just like them. His fingers pressed the collar a bit tighter. Don't forget, I'm S-level too. Just as Jiang Chaoyang was about to speak, he suddenly got pulled into an embrace. Han Shuqian held him close, resting his chin on Jiang Chaoyang's shoulder. But since you brought me a birthday cake, I'll keep pretending for a while longer. Jiang Chaoyang chuckled softly and ruffled his hair. Beep beep. Core conference room, zone 1. 6 figures sat around a massive circular table. Miao Xiuyu entered. The wound on his head had been treated, but bloodstains remained on his collar and sleeves. A lazy man on the left whistled, breaking the silence. Got hurt? Who did it? Fan Mixi smiled. Shouldn't have let you go. His temperament suits us better for taming. The man laughed heartily, fingers pressing his temple as he glanced at Fan Mixi and Fan Nijai. Since when did you guys turn into the E agency, grabbing people like that? Miao Xiuyu sat down and placed a data pad on the table. Let's get to business. The long-haired man in the main seat asked, what's the assessment? Miao Xiuyu brought up the data. Jiang Chaoyang's pheromones can't be forcibly extracted. There's an unknown repelling force field, but the concentration is S+ level, far beyond normal. The man wearing a monocle looked up. No wonder the E agency has been trying to catch him. Fan Mizha shook his head. The E agency doesn't know. We brought him here because many S levels protect him. Maybe he's interesting. A laugh came from the shadows. Anyway, we can't do anything with him for now. Let me try. The man in the main seat knocked on the table, nodding. Go ahead. Jiang Chaoyang slept restlessly. A strange sensation awakened him. Like tendrils of a living creature, it made him snap his eyes open. Darkness surrounded him, he couldn't see his hand before his face. He hesitated, then slowly stood up. A faint light flickered on, revealing a blurry figure that gradually became clear, a boyish figure. The boy looked young, with delicate features. His silver eyes shimmered with flowing tiny codes. He wore simple white clothes, exuding an otherworldly aura. Jiang Chaoyang was stunned. Lin Yuan? It's me. Why are you here? Lin Yuan's words deepened his confusion. Because I unbound from the silver curse. Jiang Chaoyang was utterly baffled. Lin Yuan walked over and took his hand, looking up as he said, I couldn't complete missions while linked to him. I tried forcibly unbinding. I failed before, but this time, I tried again when the affinity glitch occurred. This is segment 26 of 30. I've processed the content according to your instructions, preserving the original paragraph structure, line breaks, and overall layout, while translating into English in a way that suits American readers. Jiang Chaoyang instinctively asked, so, it worked? The next moment, Lin Yuan's body suddenly grew larger, forcing Jiang Chaoyang to look up at him. Lin Yuan clasped all of his fingers in his palm. It worked, but there's a problem with Yin Zhu. Jiang Chaoyang's heart tightened. It can't be amnesia or disappearance, right? Yin Zhu turned into a system. Jiang Chaoyang was stunned on the spot. A pained expression crossed his face. Could it get any more ridiculous? He was clearly a living person, how does he become a system? I didn't turn into a system. He's lying to you. Before Jiang Chaoyang could react, a cold hand covered his eyes from behind, blocking his vision. The warmth from behind startled him. Yin Zhu? You're here too? Yin Zhu responded softly, then looked up at Lin Yuan across from him, with Jiang Chaoyang between them. The two men stared at each other in silent confrontation. Jiang Chaoyang removed the hand from his eyes and sighed helplessly. Can you guys just explain what's really going on? Waking up, Jiang Chaoyang sighed and buried his head back into the covers. Lin Yuan had said that Yin Zhu wasn't originally a character in this book. He entered this world by connecting with Lin Yuan. After unbinding, Yin Zhu's existence became ambiguous, neither fully human nor ghost. But the unbinding was with Yin Zhu's consent, and Lin Yuan had warned that things might spiral out of control. Now, like Lin Yuan, only Jiang Chaoyang could see Yin Zhu. However, Yin Zhu existed in a stream of consciousness and couldn't manifest in the world like Lin Yuan. Jiang Chaoyang felt relieved he no longer had to help Yin Zhu dodge those key story characters. Yin Zhu not being able to have his pheromones extracted was indeed Lin Yuan's doing. The sensory door slid open to both sides. Bored of staying in the lab, and with Miao Xiuyu nowhere to be found, Jiang Chaoyang was driven by some impulse to leave the lab and explore the hallway guided by fuzzy memories. By some strange coincidence, he found himself in front of that familiar door again. There was movement at the doorway. Without stopping his actions, a man said without looking back, "Here for another tour?" Jiang Chaoyang scratched his nose and slipped inside. "Doctor Yu, busy?" Yu Siren ignored him and continued his meticulous work. Jiang Chaoyang shamelessly edged closer, keeping some distance, tentatively asking, "Can I ask you a few questions?" Yu Siren turned sideways. "Do I look like an encyclopedia?" Jiang Chaoyang pointed at the device. "Just curious about what experiment you're working on." "Anxiolytic compound." Jiang Chaoyang nodded but didn't leave. He leaned on an unused lab bench, eyes following Yu Siren's movements. He almost spoke again but swallowed his words. Yu Siren was busy, and talking now would only be a bother. After a long while, Yu Siren finally finished, rubbing his tired eyes and reaching for a clipboard across the room. He accidentally knocked some vials, and several tubes rolled off the bench edge, but none broke. Instead, a concerned voice spoke up. "Didn't get enough rest?" Yu Siren looked up and saw Jiang Chaoyang holding the intact vials. Jiang Chaoyang carefully put the vials back, noticing the dark circles under Yu Siren's eyes. "You researchers really push yourselves. Experiments are important, but rest is even more critical. Otherwise, low efficiency just makes things worse." Yu Siren averted his gaze. "It's nothing." Jiang Chaoyang asked, need any help? Yu Siren replied bluntly, if you want to get on my good side, just say so. Jiang Chaoyang smiled, so, do you need an assistant? Up to you. Yu Siren turned and walked away. Jiang Chaoyang seized the opportunity, following her to learn the procedures, quietly preparing tools without asking too many questions. His goal was to avoid being unwelcome. Time passed amid the quiet ticking of instruments. When finished, Jiang Chaoyang got ready to leave, turning back with a smile, I'll come again next time. Dr. Yu, wait for me. He gave Yu Siren no chance to reply and quickly left the lab. Yu Siren was speechless. Jiang Chaoyang wandered the hallway, deciding to map out the routes so he wouldn't get lost again. He discovered an inconspicuous staircase and suddenly perked up. There's more than one floor? Going upstairs, it was still endless white corridors, exactly like downstairs. Jiang Chaoyang felt overwhelmed. Was the designer obsessed with white and labyrinths? He kept moving forward, searching for anything different. Suddenly, someone tapped his shoulder. New here? He turned and saw a handsome man with a friendly smile. The man said, don't be nervous. I'm also a soothing type alpha. I'm Xia Song. Xia Song complained with sympathy, looking at you, you haven't been here long, right? This place will drive you crazy. Jiang Chaoyang asked, how long have you been here? Xia Song smiled wryly, a while. I've gotten used to it. Jiang Chaoyang noticed his neat attire. He asked, how many floors does this place have? They all look the same. Xia Song smiled wider, our floor is Area 1, the observation zone. Below are Areas 2 and 3, where experiments and data processing happen. There's also a basement, but we're not allowed down there. This is paragraph 27 of 30. Please handle the following content according to your logic. Keep the original paragraph structure, line breaks, and overall layout. Return only the processed result. Jiang Chaoyang nodded. What are you doing here? Xia Song said, physical exam, need to extract pheromones. Didn't they notify you? Jiang Chaoyang cleared his throat. I wasn't feeling well, they didn't ask me to go. After saying goodbye, Jiang Chaoyang hesitated, then decided to follow and see for himself, wanting to learn more about the exam. He quickened his pace, chasing after Xia Song. Turning a corner, he bumped into a chest, staggered back, holding his nose as he looked up. Fan Mixie teased, looks like that's the second time you've walked into my arms, huh? Jiang Chaoyang didn't want to get involved and tried to sidestep. Fan Mixie was quick, he reached out and grabbed Jiang Chaoyang's wrist. Where are you running off to? In a hurry to find someone? Jiang Chaoyang tried to pull his hand away but was held tighter. Resigned, he turned back. Where I go is none of your business. Why wouldn't it be? Fan Mixie smiled, his other hand gently brushing aside the stray hair from Jiang Chaoyang's forehead. The gesture was intimate, but his gaze was scrutinizing. Didn't I tell you not to run off to other districts? Why don't you listen? Jiang Chaoyang stared at the face so close to his own, knowing he couldn't win by force. He took a deep breath. I just got lost. Fan Mixie released his grip but draped an arm over Jiang Chaoyang's shoulder, half forcing him to turn and walk back. I'll see you back. Don't go running into things you shouldn't see, he said with a smile, leaning in to whisper near Jiang Chaoyang's ear. Warm breath brushed against Jiang Chaoyang's skin, and people you shouldn't meet. On the other side, Xia Song leaned against the wall, his almond-shaped eyes cold and unreadable. Footsteps approached, but he didn't look up. When the footsteps stopped, his smile returned, but his gaze remained fixed. You all like to meddle? Not really. Fan's eyes tone was casual as he passed by Xia Song, turning his head without looking back, as if by chance. We just don't like others touching our stuff. Fan Mixie kept an arm around Jiang Chaoyang's shoulder, half pushing him along. Jiang Chaoyang was thinking about how to break free. Moving so slow? Fan Mixie whispered close to his ear, staring at his profile. Or do you just like me leading you around? Jiang Chaoyang was about to snap back when a figure blocked their path. Han Shuochuan's eyes landed on Fan Mixie's tight grip on Jiang Chaoyang's arm. He slowly looked up and locked eyes with Fan Mixie. Han Shuochuan raised an eyebrow and smirked. Jiang Chaoyang felt like he wanted to punch him. Fan Mixie spoke first. Good dogs don't block the way. Can't you see we're busy? Han Shuochuan acted like he just noticed Jiang Chaoyang. Busy with what? I have business with him. What business? Get in line. While they talked, Jiang Chaoyang bent down and jabbed Fan Mixie sharply in the ribs with his elbow. Fan Mixie frowned and loosened his grip. Jiang Chaoyang slipped away, running over to Han Shuochuan's side. Let's go. Fan Mixie was stunned, not expecting Jiang Chaoyang to move so quickly. He didn't get angry, he just laughed. Learning to find a protector now? Han Shuochuan looked at Jiang Chaoyang and raised an eyebrow. What are you standing there for? Want me to invite you? Jiang Chaoyang almost kicked someone, remembering Han Shuochuan's same smug attitude when they first met. He thought he had changed, but the mouth was still sharp. Central monitoring room. The circular giant screen silently switched images. A man sat in the main control chair, a single lens on his nose, fingers tapping the console as his eyes stayed fixed on one screen. The door opened silently. Without looking away, the man said calmly, stopped by Fan's eye. Xia Son's harmless smile vanished, replaced by coldness as he approached the screen. On the monitor, Han Shuochuan led people away. The man leaned back, pushed up his glasses, his voice magnetic and steady. Han Shuochuan really cares about the test subjects. Xia Son said nothing. He rested a hand behind his head and squinted at the screen. One obstacle after another. Since when did the SA agency start internal conflicts? The man tapped the console, bringing up a set of data, an error report from Miao Shouyu's earlier failed attempt to extract Jiang Chaoyang's pheromones. Maybe because he's special, the pheromones can't be extracted, but the concentration is high. The experiment can't be messed up carelessly. He looked at Xia Song steadily. But using gentle methods all along, it's unclear when we'll break through. Xia Song didn't argue. What's your plan? Take him to the pheromone regulation room. Are you sure? If it gets damaged, we're done. The man's voice was flat. Speed is the priority. Stimulus methods are way more effective than simple tests. Xia Song chuckled lightly. The door closed silently again. The monitoring room was left with only the man inside, cold light reflecting on his expressionless face. After walking a while and confirming Fan Mixi wasn't following, Jiang Chaoyang slowed down and glanced at Han Shuochuan. What do you want? No reason to meet up with Teacher Jiang for a catch-up? Han Shuochuan shrugged. I've paid for tutoring too. Jiang Chaoyang rolled his eyes in silence. He knew Han Shuochuan wasn't here by chance but still acted annoyingly on purpose. Thanks, Jiang Chaoyang said. Han Shuqian clicked his tongue, as if dismissing the gratitude, stopping in his tracks to stare at Jiang Chaoyang. Under the cold light, those playful blue eyes turned serious. Here, don't trust anyone who comes up to you first. Not a single one. Jiang Chaoyang was silent, then asked, do you trust me? Han Shuqian was caught off guard. The corridor was quiet. He leaned in, almost nose to nose, his gaze icy cold. No. His voice was cool and clear. I'm not as good as you think. Han Shuqian twisted his mouth into a smirk. Trusting others is like handing them a knife. When you get stabbed depends on their heart and what price you pay. Jiang Chaoyang asked, what if I die? The atmosphere froze. Han Shuqian showed no pity, only a low chuckle. He leaned even closer, pressing his forehead against Jiang Chaoyang's, a smile revealing a bright, sharp tooth. Jiang Chaoyang's gaze was drawn in. Do you want to die? Han Shuqian's breath brushed Jiang Chaoyang's lips, tender but chilling to the bone. If I want to die, it's best to be by my hand. There are plenty of ways to kill you painfully. Mr. Jiang, you want to. His words suddenly stopped. He froze, eyes slightly widened, as Jiang Chaoyang pressed a finger against his lips, the fingertip resting on that sharp tooth, pulling his upper lip to reveal the fang. Every time you talk or smile, you show that tooth. Jiang Chaoyang didn't notice Han Shuqian stiffen. He sighed, it's so childish. Doesn't fit your image at all. Suddenly, Han Shuqian bit down hard, his sharp tooth sinking into the finger. Fuck! A sharp pain hit instantly. Jiang Chaoyang pulled his hand back, fingertip marked with deep bite marks, blood seeping out. You're crazy, damn it. Jiang Chaoyang grabbed his finger. Han Shuqian licked his lips, expression dark and menacing, staring at Jiang Chaoyang, grinding his teeth. You're the crazy one, poking your fingers into someone's mouth. Are you trying to tell me something? Jiang Chaoyang's face tightened, realizing he was rude. He awkwardly scratched his neck. I just thought your tooth looked weird and couldn't help touching it. Sorry. Han Shuqian snorted coldly, clearly not satisfied with the apology. The violent spark in his eyes dimmed slightly, replaced by a faint irritation. He turned and left, tossing out a warning. Mess with me again, and I'll have you in bed for a week. Jiang Chaoyang didn't catch the last few words clearly and was about to ask when Han Shuqian disappeared around the corner. The sting in his fingers still throbbed faintly. Jiang Chaoyang shook his hand and headed back to Miao Shouyu's lab. No one was at the workstation. He wondered where Miao Shouyu had gone, when suddenly he heard the sound of keyboard tapping from the open room nearby. He looked over to see Miao Shouyu seated at the computer. Miao Shouyu glanced at him briefly without speaking, then turned back to the screen. Jiang Chaoyang approached, leaning toward the monitor. Are you studying the repulsion field? It's basically useless. Because that was a buff Lin Yuan had given him. Miao Xiaoyu paused, slowly lifting his eyes to look at him through his bangs. The previous model couldn't simulate the interference of your pheromones. Adding new parameters made it effective. Jiang Chaoyang didn't understand the data and changed the subject. Is the cut on your head any better? No infection, right? Oh, you care about me now? Miao Xiaoyu squinted slightly. Jiang Chaoyang wanted to smack himself for his loose mouth. Miao Xiaoyu said no more. The lab fell silent. He focused on the screen but faintly heard rustling behind him, not footsteps. Miao Xiaoyu didn't turn around, his typing rhythm remained steady. After a few minutes, the rustling stopped. Then he felt strands of hair being brushed aside at the back of his head. The typing ceased. The next moment, a cool, damp touch and gentle pressure followed. Miao Xiaoyu stayed still, breathing unchanged. He sensed the cotton swab's awkward but careful movement, avoiding the wound itself and only applying medicine to the swollen skin. Jiang Chaoyang spoke from behind. You definitely didn't treat it properly. He sighed. If it gets infected, the unlucky one will still be me. Who knows if you'll blame me? Miao Xiaoyu remained silent, neither refusing nor responding. Suddenly, a sharp ringtone cut through the quiet. Miao Xiaoyu answered. Jiang Chaoyang couldn't hear the call's content, but Miao Xiaoyu said nothing. After a dozen seconds, the call ended. Miao Xiaoyu put down his phone. You need to go to the pheromone control room. Jiang Chaoyang blinked. Me? Want to go? Miao Xiaoyu asked back, making Jiang Chaoyang feel weird. You're actually asking me? Can I not go? Miao Xiaoyu spun his chair to face him. If you beg me on your knees, I might not make you go. Jiang Chaoyang was speechless. He turned to leave. Forget it, I'll go. Bang! Just as he turned, Jiang Chaoyang's foot caught on something, the medical kit flying out of his hands, and he fell hard. What the hell, why'd you trip me? Jiang Chaoyang propped himself up, glaring angrily at the crouching Miao Xiaoyu. I should have cracked your head while you were putting on the medicine. This is the content of paragraph 29/30. Please process the following content according to your logic. Keep the original paragraph structure, line breaks, and overall layout, and only return the processed result. Jiang Chaoyang had just gotten up from the ground, his knee barely touching down when suddenly a hand grabbed his ankle and yanked hard, causing his supporting leg to snap straight, and he crashed heavily back onto the floor. He laughed angrily, rolled over, and lifted his leg to sweep at Miao Xiaoyu's shoulder. What's this? Using this trick to stop me from passing? Miao Xiaoyu didn't even flinch at the kick, his eyes coldly fixed on Jiang Chaoyang. Whether you come back alive from the pheromone regulation room is anyone's guess. Jiang Chaoyang didn't finish his sentence before Miao Xiaoyu tightened his grip on his leg and suddenly pressed his upper body forward. Caught off guard, Jiang Chaoyang's foot slipped, his bent leg resting on Miao Xiaoyu's shoulder while his other leg stayed on the floor, half lying, half sitting, the door wide open, feeling crushed and uncomfortable. A sharp pain shot through his thigh and knee, he gasped sharply. Speak up. Can you let go of my leg? It's about to break. He tried to pull his leg back, but Miao Xiaoyu used his body weight to pin him down, not letting him move. Their faces were inches apart. Jiang Chaoyang clearly saw Miao Xiaoyu's lowered lashes and indifferent expression. Miao Xiaoyu said, the pheromone regulation room isn't just a regular testing chamber. Jiang Chaoyang paused, wincing from the pain in his leg. They use extreme methods to force pheromone overload. The room simulates all kinds of synthetic pheromones. Miao Xiaoyu glanced at the collar around Jiang Chaoyang's neck. Your pheromones can't be extracted, but their concentration is abnormal. They'll use more intense stimulation to force your body to release pheromones on its own. Jiang Chaoyang's eyes widened. That stimulation isn't aimed at the body, it's more about the mind and instincts. Miao Xiaoyu tilted his head slightly, lips almost touching the spot on Jiang Chaoyang's leg. Why don't the calming type alphas from the SA agency lose control? He leaned in low, waiting until Jiang Chaoyang cried out in pain before slowly speaking. Many don't make it to the end. What collapses isn't the pheromones, it's the mind. Jiang Chaoyang felt struck by lightning. So the SA agency was utterly ruthless. You're special. Gentle research takes too long, they've run out of patience. I get it, just let go. My thigh's cramping. Jiang Chaoyang couldn't help but interrupt, trying to push Miao Xiaoyu's shoulder with little effect. Miao Xiaoyu didn't loosen his grip, instead, he pressed down harder. Jiang Chaoyang cried out in pain, take it easy. Why did you medicate me earlier? Jiang Chaoyang was so angry he almost spat blood, struggling to follow the logic. Just on impulse. Just on impulse? Do you think I hit you with a stick to give you a date as a treat? Don't get me wrong, I don't see you as an M. Only then did Miao Xiaoyu release him and stand up. Even if I don't take you, they'll find a way to send you. Jiang Chaoyang finally lowered his leg and rubbed the sore spot. If I release pheromones voluntarily, does that mean I don't have to go to the regulation room? You still have to go. Your pheromone concentration is obvious, but voluntary release will make it a bit easier. Jiang Chaoyang sighed deeply. Miao Xiaoyu took a call and left the lab. Jiang Chaoyang touched his chin, a mischievous idea suddenly forming, and a villainous smile spreading across his face. That night, Jiang Chaoyang staggered toward Yu Siren's lab, not to see Yu Siren, but just wandering around nearby. At that moment, a figure appeared from a side path. Jiang Chaoyang was a bit surprised. What a coincidence, running into you again. Xia Song nodded. Still not asleep at this hour? Jiang Chaoyang suddenly remembered something and asked, what are you doing here? Isn't this the main research area? Xia Song sighed. Just finished a round of extra physiological monitoring. They're building a more detailed database, so we have to be on call all the time. Jiang Chaoyang asked calmly, I've been here a few days, and other than you, I haven't seen any other calming-type alphas. Where did they all go? Xia Song answered smoothly, the other calming-type alphas stay in designated areas. Most are resting in stasis pods, recovering their condition and pheromone functions. Jiang Chaoyang hadn't passed the preliminary evaluation, so he wasn't sent to the calming-type alpha zone. He knew in his heart it was because of his uniqueness that they kept him out. He bumped the back of his head against the wall and muttered dully, I'm having trouble sleeping. Xia Song asked, thinking about something? Jiang Chaoyang avoided his gaze and sighed. They're about to send me to the regulation room. Xia Song's voice softened. Don't be afraid. I was terrified the first time, too. But once you get through it, it's fine. Jiang Chaoyang shook his head, furrowing his brows as if suppressing something long held inside, finally confiding in the one person who might understand. I've been feeling weird lately. Weird how? My pheromones seem out of control. Xia Song paused, then listened as Jiang Chaoyang continued. I wanted Miao Xiaoyu to extract them, but I found I couldn't release them voluntarily like I've turned into a beta. Jiang Chaoyang's words were a bit scattered, but his anxiety was clear. Xia Song thought for a moment. Is it too much pressure? Or maybe you got hurt before? Jiang Chaoyang denied helplessly, I'm afraid that even if I go to the control room, I won't be able to pull through. It feels terrifying. Xia Song was silent for a few seconds, then, as if making up his mind, he gently patted Jiang's shoulder. Don't scare yourself. It might just be psychological. There's an observation area outside the control room that's usually empty. How about I take you there? Getting familiar with the environment beforehand might make it less scary when you go inside. Jiang hesitated. Would it be a bother to you? No bother at all. Xia smiled warmly. Want to go together? Jiang struggled for a moment, then finally nodded. Xia turned and led the way. With his back to Jiang, his expression was calm. He guided Jiang around a few times until they reached a metal door marked with a danger sign. This is it, Xia said with a slight smile. Don't be afraid. Just get a feel for it from outside first. The door slowly creaked open, letting out a low-frequency hum. Just as the gap was wide enough for a person to enter. Jiang suddenly stretched out his hand, not to push the door, but to grab Xia's arm firmly and pull him inside. Xia reacted quickly, swinging his hand to strike Jiang's ribs, forcing him to loosen his grip while steadying his own stance. Jiang held on stubbornly, wrapping his arms around Xia's shoulders and using the momentum to crash inside the control room together. Xia let out a startled shout, You! When the two of them tumbled into the room, Jiang Chaoyang twisted his body with sheer core strength, using Xia Song as a pivot to stabilize his footing. Xia Song, losing his balance, reacted immediately, grabbing Jiang Chaoyang's collar as they both fell together. Damn it! Jiang Chaoyang cursed, taking advantage of Xia Song's grip to kick the lock button on the door with his long leg. Bang! The heavy metal door slammed shut with a resounding thud. Jiang Chaoyang slowly straightened up, tugging at the collar around his neck, which had nearly choked him earlier. He smirked, taunting Xia Song, You're pretty familiar with this place, huh? Dusting himself off theatrically, he glanced around the room. You probably know how soundproof and secure this place is, right? He kicked the wall with his heel, producing a dull thud. Since you wanted me to experience it, why not stay here together? Two people aren't lonely. Xia Song chuckled softly. As the lights flickered on, they illuminated the excitement on Xia Song's face. He brushed back his bangs with a hand, his slightly upturned peach blossom eyes narrowing. Fine by me, but I'm going to draw out your pheromones, Xia Song said, his voice laced with a sharp edge. Jiang Chaoyang shrugged. I can't release pheromones. Xia Song froze. Jiang Chaoyang broke into laughter, watching Xiesong's stiffened expression. You thought I was lying? I really can't. Crossing his arms, he sighed theatrically. I know that releasing pheromones willingly can ease the pain, I'm not stupid. He understood that there was no avoiding the control room. But since his unique physiology was the issue, he might as well let it play to its fullest advantage. Let the SA agency figure it out. Suddenly, a low humming sound in the control room ceased. Synthetic pheromones began to fill the air, seeping into his pores. Jiang Chaoyang pinched his nose and fanned the air. Disgusting. But the pheromones didn't rely on smell, they directly stimulated nerve endings. Looking up, Jiang Chaoyang locked eyes with Xiesong. Noticing his furrowed brow and lack of the expected reaction, Jiang Chaoyang spread his hands, signaling his complete lack of response. See? I wasn't lying. Not a whiff of pheromones, just like a regular beta. Xiesong remained silent. Jiang Chaoyang exhaled in relief, feeling like he'd just passed a crucial checkpoint. Pulling at his collar, he grumbled, why is this damn place heating up? Does the SA agency have an excessive electricity budget? He assumed the control room was activating heating systems to amplify discomfort. The oppressive heat and rising agitation were accompanied by an unfamiliar scent, not pheromones, but something else entirely. Jiang Chaoyang. This feeling, something's definitely wrong. His head snapped up, eyes locking onto Xiesong at the center of the room. The control room wasn't just trying to force him to release pheromones, it was also extracting Xiesong's. And that scent? He'd encountered it before, back at Yuan's. It was inducement-type pheromones. Jiang Chaoyang pressed himself against the door, desperately clawing at the seam, trying to pry it open with his bare hands. The fire raging inside him grew more intense. He shouted, how the hell do you open this door? There's not even a password? Put. A laugh sounded behind him. Jiang Chaoyang turned to see Xiesong sitting on the floor. You're not worried? They're extracting your pheromones right now. Xiesong remained indifferent, shrugging. Let them. I don't care. Jiang Chaoyang felt a pang of regret. He'd never considered that Xiesong might be an inducement type alpha. Able to extract any pheromones, of course, it had to be inducement type. You said the soundproofing here's great? Xiesong tilted his head, his peach blossom eyes now laced with a teasing allure. The answer is, very. His gaze trailed over Jiang Chaoyang's reddened ears, his voice dropping into a dangerous timbre. No matter how much you scream, no one outside will hear a thing. The inducement-type pheromones were like gasoline on fire. Xiesong watched Jiang Chaoyang's futile struggle. Jiang Chaoyang's heartbeat raced, his limbs weakening, his vision blurring. His hand slid helplessly down the door before he slumped to the ground, sweat-drenched bangs clinging to his face. A tall shadow loomed over him. He turned his head with difficulty. Scared now? Xiesong crouched slightly, one hand braced against the door above Jiang Chaoyang, trapping him in place. His other hand moved leisurely to loosen his collar. He lowered his gaze to the limp Jiang Chaoyang, his tone soft yet laced with menace. Weren't you acting all tough when you dragged me in just now? Jiang Chaoyang opened his mouth to retort, but all that came out was fragmented, shallow breaths. Xiesong knelt on one knee, scooping the weakened Jiang Chaoyang into his arms in one swift motion. One arm wrapped tightly around Jiang Chaoyang's waist, while the other hand held the back of his head firmly, pressing Jiang's face against the crook of his neck. The embrace was suffocating, and worse still, the heat emanating from Xiesong's neck, the source of the concentrated inducement pheromones, was intense. Let go. Jiang Chaoyang struggled desperately, pushing against Xiesong's chest with both hands. His nose and mouth were buried in Xiesong's neck, inhaling large amounts of the potent inducement pheromones with every breath. Jiang Chaoyang's body stiffened violently, his pupils dilating and trembling, his mouth unconsciously falling open. Feeling Jiang Chaoyang's gradual surrender, Xiesong deliberately tightened his grip, pressing them even closer together to ensure Jiang was fully immersed in the pheromones. Time passed in a blur, though it felt like an eternity to Jiang Chaoyang. When Xiesong deemed it enough, he loosened his hold slightly. Without support, Jiang Chaoyang slumped backward, his back colliding with the cold door. His head lolled to the side, his gaze unfocused, lips slightly parted as he panted, saliva trailing from the corner of his mouth. Xiesong surveyed the scene. You. Suddenly, the sound of a fist cutting through the air filled the room, landing squarely against his cheek. Bang! Caught off guard, Xiesong's face snapped to the side, his lips splitting and blood seeping out. He froze, his eyes widening slightly. Jiang Chaoyang propped himself up, refusing to collapse, taking a deep breath before flashing a defiant smirk. Dude, are your pheromones watered down? Pathetic. Xiesong narrowed his eyes at him. At this moment, Jiang Chaoyang's disheveled appearance, though weakened, was paired with a gaze full of scorn and mockery. Can't handle it? Cough. Yuans were way stronger than yours. Yuan? Xie Song pressed his tongue against the inside of his cheek, tasting the metallic tang of blood. His icy peach blossom eyes bore into Jiang Chaoyang. You're doing this on purpose? Jiang Chaoyang didn't respond. He's better than me? In what way? Still, Jiang Chaoyang remained silent. Xie Song let out a self-deprecating laugh. You've never tried me. How would you know I'm not better? Jiang Chaoyang still didn't reply. He was on the verge of passing out, barely registering Xie Song's words. Beep beep. Pheromone extraction complete. The door automatically slid open. Without its support, Jiang Chaoyang fell backward, collapsing into the light spilling from the hallway. A low, magnetic voice rang out. Jiang Chaoyang landed flat on his back, his head coming to rest perfectly between a pair of polished leather shoes. He struggled to open his heavy eyelids, his gaze traveling up past a tailored vest and neatly knotted tie, finally locking onto a pair of eyes gazing down at him. The man wore a single-lens eyeglass, its gold chain glinting as it dangled against his sharply angled jaw. His hair was meticulously styled, yet a few strands fell over his forehead, adding an unexpected severity to his demeanor. This is section 237. Here's the process text maintaining the original paragraph structure, line breaks, and overall layout. Gonsa glanced at Xie Song, noticing the blood at the corner of his mouth, and shook his head. Why is it that whenever someone gets near him, they end up getting beaten? Fan Mijai got kicked in the neck, Fan Mixi took an elbow, Miao Shoyu got his head busted open, and now Xie Song got punched in the face. Xie Song licked the blood off the corner of his mouth. Who knows? After a moment, he said, his pheromones can't be extracted or released on their own. Gonsa crouched down, touching Jiang Chaoyang's forehead. Then we observe for now. Not letting him go? You want to let him go? Xie Song squinted. No. What time is it? No idea. When Jiang Chaoyang woke up, the ceiling above him wasn't the one he was used to. Instead, it was a lavishly decorated room that resembled a hotel suite. Had he already left the SA facility? You're awake? Jiang Chaoyang froze, turning his head. Next to him was a man lying on his side, propped up on one elbow, looking at him with a mischievous glint in his eyes. My name is Jun Shilin. As he spoke, Jiang Chaoyang noticed a mole just below the corner of his lips. Sitting up, Jiang Chaoyang touched his neck. The collar was gone. Looking around, he asked, is this a hotel? Jun Shilin waggled a finger. No, this is the lower level of the SA facility. Jiang Chaoyang lay back down. Seeing the look on his face fall, Jun Shilin reached out and lightly poked his cheek. What's wrong? Not happy? Jiang Chaoyang ignored him. This is way better than Miao Shoyu's cold, sterile lab, right? Jun Shilin chuckled, though his eyes held a shadowy intensity. He lowered his voice. Or, do you prefer being in that control room with Xie Song? A shiver ran down Jiang Chaoyang's spine as he slapped Jun Shilin's hand away. You're so noisy. Can you shut up? Jun Shilin didn't seem bothered by having his hand smacked. Instead, he lay back down. Wanna guess who brought you here? Jiang Chaoyang rolled over and pulled the blanket over his head. Jun Shilin sat up, yanked the blanket off him, and teased, come on, guess. If you get it right, there's a reward. Jiang Chaoyang, exasperated, said, was it you? Jun Shilin laughed. Not a chance. Carrying someone is exhausting, and you don't exactly look light. At that moment, the bedroom door handle turned. Without looking over, Jun Shilin pointed toward the door. It was him. The kindest guy in the SA facility, Gonsa. He brought you back from Xie Song. Jiang Chaoyang looked toward the doorway and froze. And he carried you princess style, Jun Shilin added. Ignoring the joke, Gonsa walked straight into the room and got to the point. Starting today, you'll be staying here temporarily. Jiang Chaoyang shot up. Here? Why? You can't have your pheromones extracted, and preliminary tests show you've lost the ability to release them on your own, Gonsa explained. Standard monitoring and research don't work on you, and the collar can't detect your pheromones. Jun Shilin grinned and chimed in, so you've been upgraded from experiment subject to designated observation target. Congrats! Jiang Chaoyang thought to himself, who exactly am I supposed to congratulate here? Gonsa continued, this is the lower level. It's a stable environment with minimal interference. All of your behaviors, emotions, and physiological data will be recorded here around the clock. Jiang Chaoyang understood now he wasn't just an ordinary lab rat anymore. He was a luxury lab rat under 24-hour surveillance. Si Gongsa added, the lower level is our rest area. We won't come by often. Make yourself at home. Jiang Chaoyang took a deep breath and tested the waters. What if I don't want to stay? Before Si Gongsa could answer, Jun Shilin leaned over, resting his chin on Si Gongsa's shoulder. Then we'll just send you back to the control room or call Xieson to keep you company. How long is this observation supposed to last? Jiang Chaoyang asked. Until we figure out the cause, or until you can release pheromones again, Si Gongsa replied. Jun Shilin wrapped an arm around Jiang Chaoyang's neck, only to be shoved away. If you're confused, just ask me. Jiang Chaoyang forced a smile, sensing that something about all this felt off. He wanted to lie back down, but Jun Shilin dragged him off to eat. Helpless, he followed him out of the bedroom. Jiang Chaoyang was stunned. This wasn't just a lower level, it was an underground palace. Calling it a castle wouldn't be an exaggeration. The lighting mimicked natural sunlight, leaving no dark corners. There wasn't even a hint of the oppressive feeling that basements usually had. The air carried a subtle fragrance, and the temperature and humidity were just right. Pretty nice, huh? Jun Shilin smirked at his surprised expression. This place has everything: gym, cinema, bar, library. Jiang Chaoyang glanced around but noticed there weren't any windows. No matter how luxurious, it was still a cage. Looking back at Jun Shilin, he asked, is there a hot spring? Jun Shilin nodded. Jiang Chaoyang secretly approved. But Jun Shilin warned him, only one person is allowed to use it. Don't go. You'll just get kicked out. Jiang Chaoyang was puzzled. It's not communal? Jun Shilin replied, the lower level facilities were built by him. He has the highest authority here. Who? Jiang Chaoyang asked. The guy with the long hair. You haven't met him yet, Jun Shilin said, offering no further explanation as he led Jiang Chaoyang to the dining area. The walls were made of black marble, accented with subtle gold veining. As Jiang Chaoyang sat down, footsteps approached behind him. Two people set down trays and then stepped back, bowing before retreating to the corner. I thought it was just you guys here. There are others? Jiang Chaoyang tapped his plate and glanced at them. They're carefully screened. They don't have access to core information and are only responsible for cleaning and meal prep, Jun Shilin said nonchalantly. Jiang Chaoyang didn't press further. Taking a sniff of the tea, he remarked, what kind of tea is this? Smells pretty good. Sleeping tea. Jiang Chaoyang almost spat it out. Jun Shilin froze, now sprayed with tea. What kind of tea? Jiang Chaoyang coughed violently. Jun Shilin's expression stiffened, but the smile at the corner of his lips remained, albeit with a dangerous edge. Jiang Chaoyang grabbed a napkin and clumsily wiped Jun Shilin's face. Why would you give me something like that? Jun Shilin closed his eyes and lazily responded, wipe gently. Don't poke me in the eye. Just as Jiang Chaoyang began to suspect that Jun Shilin might retaliate, the latter simply grabbed his wrist lightly. The dangerous vibe on Jun Shilin's face vanished, replaced with a playful pout as he lightly shook Jiang Chaoyang's wrist. I was kidding. Did you really take it seriously? Jiang Chaoyang gave him a slap across the head. That joke wasn't funny at all. Pull something like that again, and I won't hold back. Jun Shilin was stunned, holding his head and staring blankly at the now irate Jiang Chaoyang. I thought you'd smack me in the face, like Xie does. Rolling his eyes, Jiang Chaoyang retorted, you're asking for a beating? Wait for next time. Jun Shilin chuckled, his eyes narrowing with amusement. The suppressed laughter slipped through his teeth, his voice trembling slightly. Then, he composed himself and ladled soup into Jiang Chaoyang's bowl. What kind of soup is this? Jiang Chaoyang asked. Korean fish soup. Tastes great with rice, Jun Shilin replied. Let me know if further adjustments are needed. Jiang Chaoyang was just about to start eating when footsteps approached from behind. He glanced back briefly before returning his attention to his meal. So this is where you've been, Fan Mizai said. Jun Shilin didn't turn around. Supporting his chin with one hand, he kept his gaze fixed on Jiang Chaoyang. Jiang heard the sound of chairs being moved. Suddenly, he found himself flanked on both sides. Unbothered, he scooped a spoonful of rice soaked in fish soup, eating it with an expressionless face. Is it good? Fan Mixi tilted his head and asked. Jiang paused, slowly set down his spoon, straightened up, and said seriously. No exaggeration, it's really good. Fan Mixi laughed as he leaned closer, throwing an arm around Jiang's shoulder. Bored after dinner? Want to do something fun? We'll keep you company. Jiang shrugged off his arm. No. Jun Shilin stood and suggested, I'm free anyway. How about some pool? If you don't know how to play, I can teach you. Fan Mizai leaned on the back of Jiang's chair, drawing an exaggerated circle with his hand. We'll just take him with us. Jun Shilin ignored the fan brothers, turning to Jiang with a playful pout. I've barely started observing and now you're trying to swoop in? That's not fair, is it? His tone suddenly dropped, cold and ominous. That won't do, will it? Fan Mixie sneered. Observing is work. Playing is playing. Don't mix them up. Jun Shilin spoke slowly, observation should be comprehensive. Playing together counts as observation too. His fingers tapped rhythmically on the table, tension rising in the air. Jiang sighed, exasperated. It's just a beat-up pool table. What's there to fight about? Can't we all just go together? Are you short on cues? The room fell silent. Scene transition. Jiang examined the pool room's setup. Fully equipped, it even had a sofa, a bar counter, and complimentary water. Jun Shilin handed him a cue stick. I'll teach you the basics. No need, Jiang cut him off briskly. He strode to the breakpoint, leaning over to line up his shot. With a sharp crack, the ball scattered, and two immediately dropped into pockets, a perfect opening. The light-hearted expressions on the other three faces vanished. Jiang circled the table, his movements measured. As he leaned over for another shot, his back arched gracefully, his shirt lifting slightly to reveal a strip of taut, toned waist. Their gazes weren't on his technique, they were glued to his posture. Jun Shilin let out a low whistle. Another ball sank neatly into a pocket. Jiang grinned, almost cocky. How's that? Not bad, right? His smile, radiant and bold, momentarily stunned the trio. Continuing his game, Jiang moved to their side, turning his back to them. What he did next froze the fan brothers in place. Jiang raised his left leg, propping his knee on the table's edge. His pants stretched taut, accentuating defined curves and powerful lines. The motion, combined with his lean forward, highlighted his figure, his posture exuding an effortless allure. The fan brothers' throats went dry. They hastily grabbed their water bottles, but their eyes never left him. Jiang positioned himself for the next shot, his body shifting slightly, his hips swaying with subtle precision. Both brothers choked on their water. Jiang turned to look at them, puzzled. What's wrong with you two? Nothing. Idiots. At that moment, the door swung open. Siren, clad in a white lab coat, stood at the entrance. His gaze swept across the room, lingering briefly on Jiang's posture before moving on. He addressed the fan brothers, come here. I need to talk to you. Their irritation at being interrupted was evident on their faces. Great timing as always, Fan Mixie muttered, stepping towards the door. The door closed behind them, leaving only Jiang and Jun Shilin in the pool room. Jiang set down his cue stick, disinterested. This is boring. What's wrong? Jun Shilin approached. Don't want to play? We can do something else. Jiang shook his head. I just miss those two. Playing pool reminded him of Yin Yu and Yen Ji. He had been terrible at first, only learning thanks to their patient guidance. Now that they were missing, Jiang couldn't help but worry about them. You were close? Jun Shilin asked. Jiang nodded. They're the ones who taught me to play. Jun Shilin smiled. I'm jealous. But I have to admit, your form is pretty impressive. Jiang scratched his head, confused. How can playing pool be impressive? The stances all look the same. Jun Shilin smirked. If you think so, then sure. Jiang sat down on the sofa. Jun Shilin picked up a cue stick, his movements fluid. Each shot was clean and precise, the clicks of the balls clear and satisfying. The more Jiang watched, the more surprised he became. After several rounds, Jun Shilin, evidently bored, joined Jiang on the sofa. You play well, Jiang remarked. Do I? Yeah. Clean, straightforward. You don't even need to calculate angles much before taking a shot. How long did you practice? A week. Jiang blinked, stunned. You're that talented? Jun Shilin chuckled, handing him a bottle of water. Jiang took it without thinking, drinking a few gulps. Hey, you just drank that? What if I'd spiked it? Jun Shilin teased. Jiang choked, spluttering water everywhere. Jun Shilin swiftly moved, covering Jiang's mouth with his hand. Jiang struggled to push him away, but Jun Shilin's strength pinned him down, his fingers pressing into Jiang's cheek. Jun whispered softly, coaxing, swallow it. Jiang glared at him. Jun grinned. Relax, I'm kidding. It's just water. He leaned in closer, strands of hair falling forward, his eyes alight with mischief. Every last drop, he murmured. Jiang complied. Moments later, Jun released him, laughing. Good, you're very obedient. In the next instant, Jiang raised his leg and kicked him. If you want to fight, just say so. Burdened by his thoughts, Jiang felt he had no one to confide in. He ended up wandering into the library to distract himself. The library was larger than he anticipated. He strolled through, scanning book titles that only made his head hurt. Past 2 rows of shelves, the space opened up, revealing a domed ceiling painted like a starry night sky. Looking around, he noticed someone slumped over a table. Jiang stopped mid-step. The man's profile rested against his arm, dark circles under his eyes. His jacket hung over the chair behind him. Silently, Jiang averted his gaze, pretending not to notice, and headed upstairs. Siren stirred awake. Slowly lifting his head, his eyes were dazed. His stiff shoulders and neck protested as he moved. He stopped abruptly. Turning slightly, he noticed the jacket now draped over him. Jiang Chaoyang, meanwhile, was engrossed in a book on pheromone sensitivity. His brows furrowed as the jargon overwhelmed him. Rubbing his temples, he gave up and set the book aside, accidentally knocking over another volume. Before it hit the ground, a steady hand caught it. Jiang Chaoyang froze, looking up to see a slender hand connected to a wrist clad in a dark sleeve. He glanced back. A man stood behind him. The space between the bookshelves was narrow, and their proximity allowed Jiang Chaoyang to catch a clean, subtle scent. "Thanks," Jiang Chaoyang began. Si Gonsa interrupted coldly, "Break it, you pay for it." Si Gonsa returned the book to the shelf and was about to leave but paused suddenly, glancing down at Jiang Chaoyang's hand, which was still being held. The chain of Jiang Chaoyang's glasses swayed slightly. "Can I ask you something?" Jiang Chaoyang inquired. "Speak. Who's the top person here? I need to find them." The air grew heavy in an instant. Si Gonsa stared at Jiang Chaoyang for 2 seconds before replying flatly, "We don't rank people here, so I wouldn't know." Jiang Chaoyang looked puzzled. "Jun Shirlin said the one with the most power here isn't your boss?" Si Gonsa halted mid-step and turned his head slightly. "Why are you looking for them?" "No big deal, just need to discuss something." Without another word, Si Gonsa pulled a book off the shelf and, out of the blue, gently set it atop Jiang Chaoyang's head. Jiang Chaoyang blinked in surprise and caught the book. "Read more, talk less," Si Gonsa said impatiently. Jiang Chaoyang was speechless. Si Gonsa offered no further explanation before turning and leaving. Jiang Chaoyang, feeling a bit frustrated, continued to inquire with others, but no one was willing to divulge the whereabouts of the person he was seeking. After making a circuit around the place, he returned to the first floor. There, Siren was still seated at the desk, now awake. An impish idea crossed Jiang Chaoyang's mind as he crept up silently. Just as he was about to tap Siren on the shoulder, a cold hand suddenly grabbed his wrist with a grip so strong it felt like his bones might snap. Hearing the commotion, Siren released him, looked up, and said, "It's you?" Jiang Chaoyang glanced at his reddened wrist and discreetly tucked his hand behind his back. "What are you reading?" Siren frowned slightly. "Nothing. You feeling okay?" Jiang Chaoyang asked. "I'm fine." Jiang Chaoyang sat beside him, his gaze flickering to the book in front of Siren, which was about pheromone compatibility. After a moment, Siren shut the book and asked, "Why are you staring at me?" "You've got dark circles under your eyes," Jiang Chaoyang replied. "Why hasn't the suppressant been finished yet?" Siren didn't answer. He stood and left. Jiang Chaoyang quickly followed. "Heading to the lab? I'll tag along." Siren didn't respond and kept walking. Jiang Chaoyang thought to himself, "This plan is going smoothly." Siren didn't chase him away, likely because Jiang Chaoyang had helped him before. Jiang Chaoyang handed him a test tube, all the while contemplating how to extract the information he needed. Siren seemed perpetually alone. Just as Jiang Chaoyang was about to speak, Siren completed the liquid refinement, drawing out a clear solution and sealing it in a storage chamber. Removing his gloves, Siren made a phone call. "The preliminary version of the S-grade suppressant is ready. Need a tester." After hanging up, Jiang Chaoyang asked, "So now you can finally get some sleep?" "The efficacy isn't confirmed yet. Need to wait for the susceptibility period to test." Siren closed his eyes. Seizing the moment, Jiang Chaoyang leaned closer from behind. "I've helped you so many times. I've got a pressing question." "Speak. Where's your boss?" Before Siren could respond, his phone rang again. After listening to the caller, he hung up and looked at Jiang Chaoyang. "Weren't you looking for him?" "Deliver the suppressant." "Me?" Siren nodded, giving him the location. Then he added, "I'm going to sleep now." Jiang Chaoyang detected a hint of exhaustion in his voice. Taking the suppressant, he hesitated at the door before turning back to check Siren's forehead for any sign of fever. Satisfied, he left. Not long after, Siren opened his eyes and found himself covered with a jacket. Jiang Chaoyang returned to the basement. A familiar yet slightly exasperated voice came from behind. "Where did you go?" I've been looking for you. He ignored it and kept walking. A hand suddenly rested on his shoulder. Jun Shilin leaned in, half pushing, half squeezing. Why are you ignoring me? Jiang Chaoyang pushed him away. Don't mess around. I'm busy. Jun Shilin glanced at the box in Jiang Chaoyang's hand. Doctor, you finished it already? That was fast. Why are you delivering it? He's not feeling well. I'm helping him out. Jun Shilin scoffed. He's that weak? Jiang Chaoyang raised an eyebrow mockingly. You're the weak one. You couldn't even carry someone without complaining. Jun Shilin was momentarily speechless. I've got great stamina, actually, whether it's carrying someone or anything else. Jun Shilin said seriously. Jiang Chaoyang sneered. Yeah, right. Don't believe me? Want me to carry you, so you can feel for yourself? Jiang Chaoyang immediately refused. Get lost. Who would let another guy carry them for no reason? Jun Shilin asked, other than Si Gongsa, has anyone ever carried you? Jiang Chaoyang paused, thinking. I think it was saying Chi Yu. I wasn't feeling well, and he helped me out. Oh, him. Jun Shilin mumbled under his breath before regaining composure. Then let me carry you for a bit, just a moment? Jiang Chaoyang sighed, pushing him away. What's wrong with you? My legs work fine. Why would I need someone to carry me? A sudden laugh came from behind. Ha ha. If I break your legs, then you'd need me to carry you. Jiang Chaoyang stopped abruptly, incredulous as he turned back. Jun Shilin stood there, the hallway lights casting shadows. His hair fell over his eyes, which now carried an unsettling depth behind a faint smile. You're joking, right? Jiang Chaoyang asked. Jun Shilin's face was unreadable. I'm not. Jiang Chaoyang stared at him, then calmly said, if you dare break my legs, I'll rip your arm off first. Jun Shilin remained unfazed. Legs are more important. Break those, and you can't go anywhere. You? What are you two chatting about? Care to include me? Xia Song leaned lazily against a pillar, his voice raspy from just waking up. Jiang Chaoyang looked at Xia Song, then back at Jun Shilin, before quickly walking towards Xia Song. Xia Song didn't expect it, his smile stiffening. What surprised him more was Jiang Chaoyang suddenly throwing his arms around his neck, leaping up, and wrapping his legs around Xia Song's waist like a koala. Xia Song froze, instinctively holding Jiang Chaoyang, his hands landing awkwardly on Jiang Chaoyang's rear. You, Xia Song stammered. Just messing with you, Jiang Chaoyang said smugly, turning to Jun Shilin. See? No need to break my legs to get carried. Jun Shilin's grin took on a dangerous edge. Xia Song finally processed the situation, lowering his voice. Someone's carrying you, alright? Jiang Chaoyang noticed where Xia Song's hand was and quickly tried to pry it off. Xia Song looked at him. Are you trying to piss him off or get me to hold you? A pause. Or, do you really want me to? This is section 537. Following your instructions, I have preserved the paragraph structure, line breaks, and overall layout in my translation. Jiang Chaoyang was so furious he almost spat blood. You disgust me. Xia Song was silent. Jiang Chaoyang finally shook off Xia Song and prepared to leave. The box in his hand slipped and flew out. With a bang, the box hit Miao Shoyu, who had just turned the corner, right on the spot Jiang Chaoyang's drawer had struck before. Time froze for a second. Miao Shoyu slowly turned his head, his gaze as cold and menacing as a ghost's. Xia Song and Jun Shilin pointed at Jiang Chaoyang in unison. Jiang Chaoyang stammered awkwardly, I. Miao Shoyu picked up the box, walked up to him, and placed it back in his hand. You're responsible. Jiang Chaoyang nodded urgently. Xia Song and Jun Shilin exchanged puzzled looks. Xia Song sneered at Jiang Chaoyang's wrist. You two seem pretty close? Jiang Chaoyang ignored him and moved to stand behind Miao Shoyu. He lifted his hair to take a close look. No bleeding, you're lucky. He paused and asked, does it hurt? Miao Shoyu, it hurts. Alright, I'll get you some ointment later. Miao Shoyu gave the other two a quick glance, the corners of his mouth lifting slightly. The two were provoked into responding with cold smiles. Jiang Chaoyang, realizing he was wasting time, ignored them and quickly headed upstairs with the box in hand, stopping at a door. Seeing it was unlocked, he was slightly surprised and pushed it open gently, prepared to sense the pheromones of an impending heat. But as soon as he entered, he smelled nothing. The figure seated with their back to him rested their head on one hand, a few strands of long hair hanging down, as if asleep. Jiang Chaoyang approached quietly. Sister? The chair slowly turned around. A side profile came into view, cold eyes fixed on him. Jiang Chaoyang froze on the spot. Strands of hair fell over a fitted black turtleneck, cascading to the waist. Those deep, emotionless eyes opened slowly, revealing nothing within. His mind buzzed, and his face showed pure shock and disbelief. Taking a deep breath, he hurriedly placed the box on the table and turned around. "Sorry, I misspoke." Just as his hand touched the doorknob, a cold voice came from behind. "What did you just call me?" Jiang Chaoyang's whole body trembled. He turned back slowly, forcing an awkward smile. "I." Before he could finish, a pale, slender hand darted past him, pressing heavily against the door. Panicked, he looked around, avoiding eye contact. "It's a misunderstanding, I didn't mean it. I must have been seeing things." He hadn't even finished the sentence when sharp pain radiated from the back of his head. A hand gripped his skull, making him raise his head in pain, cutting off his words. Before him was an awe-inspiring yet unmistakably male face, half a head taller than him, with sharp features. The man's gaze was calm, yet more oppressive than anger. Jiang Chaoyang thought he was about to be hit, but the pain disappeared as the man let go and turned toward the table. The man injected a suppressant into his arm without expression. Jiang Chaoyang stood by the door, torn between leaving and staying. Once the injection was done, the man casually tossed the syringe back into the box. The room fell silent. After a few seconds, the man seemed unbothered, but Jiang Chaoyang's eyes narrowed sharply. Pressing against the door, his body tensed with alarm. He stared at the man's back. The suppressant had failed. Jiang Chaoyang felt a wave of nausea but didn't leave. The man sat back in the chair, crossing his hands, his expression even calmer than before, devoid of the irritability typical of a heat. "What do you want?" the man asked. Jiang Chaoyang, bracing against the oppressive atmosphere, stepped forward. "Why won't you let me go?" Stopping at the table, he said, "I'm useless to you, right? No pheromones to extract, not even voluntarily released ones. Keeping me here is just a waste of resources, isn't it?" The man replied indifferently, "It has nothing to do with me. It's their decision." Jiang Chaoyang's throat tightened. "Aren't you their leader? Shouldn't they listen to you?" The man looked up. "And why should I help you?" Jiang Chaoyang froze. The man tapped his fingers on the back of his hand. "You're of no value. Your so-called uniqueness is more like a defect." Jiang Chaoyang stayed silent. "They're keeping you out of meaningless curiosity and for futile research." At those words, Jiang Chaoyang circled the table and grabbed the man's hand. The moment their fingers touched, Lu Tingley's eyes snapped open. "How about a deal?" Jiang Chaoyang leaned closer to Lu Tingley, his tone dangerous. Up close, Lu Tingley's face became even more striking. That androgynously beautiful face, paired with long hair, didn't diminish his masculinity but instead accentuated a regal yet perilous allure that was impossible to look away from. Jiang Chaoyang boldly lifted a strand of his hair, curling it around his finger. Casually, he said, "I want to leave this place." With a cold smile, he looked down at Lu Tingley. "In exchange, I'll give you my pheromones." He spoke each word clearly. "Only to you." Lu Tingley didn't respond immediately. His deep eyes locked onto Jiang Chaoyang. The air shifted with a subtle change in pheromones. Jiang Chaoyang's fingers loosened, his sharpness fading into confusion. Lu Tingley moved, reversing their positions and gripping Jiang Chaoyang's wrist. He didn't resist, only tilting his head slightly, bewildered yet somehow certain. "Only to me?" Releasing his wrist, Lu Tingley said coldly, "Then show me your sincerity." Jiang Chaoyang followed his gaze as Lu Tingley retrieved a silk ribbon from a drawer, handing it to him. Propping his head on his hand, Lu Tingley said icily, "Tie yourself up." Jiang Chaoyang took the ribbon, clumsily wrapping it around his wrist. He tried several times but it kept slipping, leaving him looking helpless and bewildered. Lu Tingley leaned in, elegantly grabbing his hand, and skillfully tied the ribbon tightly in place, securing it with a knot. The moment the knot tightened, Jiang Chaoyang's instincts kicked in. His eyes focused sharply, staring at his bound wrist. "You?" He looked in horror at his tied hands, then up at Lu Tingley. He hadn't realized he'd fallen under the control of pheromone-induced suggestibility. As Jiang Chaoyang widened his eyes, Lu Tingley suddenly yanked his wrist, making his lower back slam into the hard edge of the desk. He groaned in pain. Leaning on the desk, Lu Tingley pressed one hand on Jiang Chaoyang's bound wrist and the other against the desk near his head, coldly asking, "Do I look like a woman to you?" His black hair draped over his shoulders, tangling around Jiang Chaoyang like a spider's web. The previously angry Jiang Chaoyang was now startled into submission, coughing awkwardly. "And no. It's just, I'm not used to men having long hair." Seeing Lu Tingley's gaze linger on him, he quickly added, "I'm not discriminating, it actually looks good on you." Lu Tingley tilted his head slightly, letting his hair fall, and the faint curve of a smile appeared on his lips. This smile sent a chill down Jiang Chaoyang's spine. He shifted the topic. If you want me to stay and help, you'll have to promise to let me go after I've developed the inhibitor. Okay, Lu Tingley agreed. A shadow flickered outside the door. He adjusted his glasses and turned to leave. Time blurred. When Jiang Chaoyang awoke from the haze, his temples throbbed and his heartbeat raced. That familiar feeling hit again. He lay on a cold tabletop, unable to lift a finger, his blurry gaze meeting Lu Tingley's. You're getting very skilled at this, he said flatly. Jiang Chaoyang lacked the energy to respond, only wanting to sleep. What time is it now? Lu Tingley looked at him for 2 seconds before replying, evening. Jiang Chaoyang was annoyed. You dragged this out on purpose, didn't you? Lu Tingley didn't answer, turning his gaze elsewhere. Jiang Chaoyang was so furious he almost spat blood. After a while, he forced himself up. The red marks on his wrists throbbed faintly with pain. He staggered to his feet, each step feeling like walking on cotton, his vision darkening as he fought the urge to vomit. Without looking back at Lu Tingley, he silently headed toward the door. Lu Tingley stood quietly, staring at his retreating figure. Jiang Chaoyang had no idea how he managed to get downstairs. His consciousness dimmed, driven only by the thought of not breaking his legs. When he reached the platform, his legs gave out and he collapsed. The carpet absorbed the impact, leaving him too drained to move. Forget it. I'll just sleep here. He turned his head, closed his eyes, and drifted off. Who knows how much time passed? Jiang Chaoyang felt himself lying on something soft, far more comfortable than the carpet. He thought he'd returned to his bed and was too lazy to open his eyes, wanting to sleep a bit longer. When he turned over, his hand brushed against something warm, not a pillow or blanket. Reluctantly, he opened his eyes. The room was dark, making it hard to see until he spotted a sharply defined profile. What the? His drowsiness vanished instantly, and he bolted upright, only to fall off the bed with a loud thud. The lights flicked on, banishing the darkness. Jiang Chaoyang squinted against the sudden brightness and looked up. Si Gonsa was leaning against the headboard, dressed in dark pajamas, glasses reflecting the light, with a laptop resting on his lap, seemingly working. He glanced at Jiang Chaoyang on the floor and spoke without much interest. Why are you yelling in the middle of the night? Jiang Chaoyang asked. This is your room? Without looking up, Si Gonsa typed on his laptop. You were blocking the staircase, so I brought you back. Jiang Chaoyang stayed silent, wanting to lie down again, but his arms lacked strength. After 2 failed attempts to get up, he gave up and asked for help. Can you give me a hand? The typing stopped. Si Gonsa closed his laptop, set it aside, and got out of bed. He walked over, looking down at Jiang Chaoyang sitting awkwardly on the floor. Jiang Chaoyang extended his hand, expecting to be pulled up, but instead, Si Gonsa bent down and scooped him up. Jiang Chaoyang chuckled wryly. I only meant for you to pull me. If you fall again, I won't bother next time. Jiang Chaoyang shut his mouth, climbed back into bed, and stared at the dim ceiling, his limbs aching. How long did I sleep? A day. He wasn't surprised. Looking at Si Gonsa's calm face, he turned away. Don't you want to know why I could sleep so long? Not curious. Then why let me sleep in your room? To observe your sleep. Jiang Chaoyang didn't respond, turning over and pulling the blanket tighter. In a soft voice, he said, thanks. Si Gonsa's fingers paused. Time passed again. When Jiang Chaoyang woke up, he felt much more refreshed. As soon as he opened his eyes, he found himself being stared at by 2 pairs of irritated eyes. Fan Mixi and Fan Mizé had appeared at some point, standing on either side of the bed, their faces full of displeasure. Jiang Chaoyang sat up, wary. What do you two want? You gave it to him? Gave what? Jiang Chaoyang asked, completely confused. Do you have to pay for sleeping now? Seeing his reaction, the 2 brothers' expressions softened slightly. Fan Mixi knelt on one knee, leaning closer. We brought you here. Got it? Jiang Chaoyang frowned, still puzzled. As he tried to get out of bed, Fan Mizé extended an arm to block him. If you know that, then don't let them get close. Jiang Chaoyang found it amusing. Grabbing Fan Mizé's chin, he pushed him back onto the bed. I'd love to stay away from you all. Do I have a choice? As he spoke, he pressed down on Fan Mizé's chest. Now you come telling me not to let others get close. Don't you find that ridiculous? Fan Mizé, pinned down, chuckled lowly instead. Jiang Chaoyang was puzzled. What are you laughing at? Suddenly, he felt a weight on his back. An arm wrapped around his shoulder, pulling him backward. Jiang Chaoyang lost his balance and fell into the embrace. Fan Mixi hugged him tightly from behind, resting his chin on Jiang Chaoyang's shoulder with a grin. Almost got countered? Do you two have nothing better to do? A calm voice came from the doorway. Get out of my room, Si Gonsa said coldly. Fan Mixie and Fan Mize stopped smiling. Though reluctant, they let go. Jiang Chaoyang got ready to follow them out. Just as he reached the door, Si Gonsa raised an arm to block him. Jiang Chaoyang froze, looking at him. Si Gonsa leaned closer. What do you think will happen if you keep hiding your pheromones? Jiang Chaoyang's expression remained calm. What am I hiding? Si Gonsa's tone was steady. I saw it. The air grew tense. Jiang Chaoyang chuckled bitterly. What did you see? Ignoring him, Si Gonsa grabbed his hand and tugged up his sleeve, revealing a faint red mark. What do you think? He said. Jiang Chaoyang took a deep breath and shrugged. Careless of me. You were behind the door back then? He leaned in, his demeanor unyielding. So, what now? Tie me up and have Miao Xiuyu extracted with instruments? Or force me to comply like Xiasong? Unless I willingly cooperate, there's nothing you can do. Click. The sound of the door locking. Jiang Chaoyang's heart raced, his mind conjuring terrifying scenarios. Why are you locking the door? Si Gonsa ignored him, stepping closer. Jiang Chaoyang retreated, his legs hitting the edge of the bed, making him sit down abruptly. Si Gonsa followed, grabbing his wrist. Jiang Chaoyang clenched his fist, ready to fight back, but Si Gonsa merely pressed him down by the shoulder to sit. Jiang Chaoyang looked confused. Si Gonsa walked to a cabinet, opened a drawer, and took out a tube of ointment. Give me your hand, Si Gonsa said. Caught off guard, Jiang Chaoyang hesitated before extending his hand. The coolness of the ointment eased the sting on his skin, though his mind was still churning with unease. Just moments ago, he had been confronting him, and now Si Gonsa was locking the door to apply medicine? Si Gonsa spoke indifferently. You don't have to help Lu Tingli to leave. What do you mean? Jiang Chaoyang asked. They'll get tired of it eventually and let you go. Jiang Chaoyang gave a bitter laugh. Easy for you to say. But how do I know when they'll get tired? What if they kill me before that happens? Si Gonsa placed the ointment back in the drawer. Then you just endure until that day comes. Endure? With my head? Jiang Chaoyang thought his idea was absurd and tried to stand up. Just as he got halfway up, Si Gonsa suddenly bent down, leaning in close. The two were so near that their mouths almost touched. Startled, Jiang Chaoyang froze in place. Warm breath brushed over his lips, and the chain of Si Gonsa's glasses grazed his cheek. Instinctively, Jiang Chaoyang leaned back, only to fall back onto the bed. What are you doing? Si Gonsa didn't move closer, only speaking in a low voice. You can't leave yet. Really? Isn't locking the door after applying the ointment just to make sure I stay put? Is your body fully healed? Jiang Chaoyang nodded blankly. As soon as he nodded, he felt a weight on his shoulder as Si Gonsa pushed him back onto the bed. You. Before he could react, the air grew heavy. He caught a faint scent of Si Gonsa's pheromones. Jiang Chaoyang's lips twitched. He understood now, there was no kindness here, only calculation. Lying in place, he stared at Si Gonsa's expressionless but menacing face, anger boiling within him. Just a moment ago, he'd thought Si Gonsa wasn't that bad. Turns out, it was all a lie. Jiang Chaoyang sneered. You think I'll help you? I'd rather endure this than help you. Si Gonsa said nothing, but the pheromones thickened, suffocatingly oppressive. Jiang Chaoyang shoved at his shoulder. Get off me. The other man didn't budge. Did you hear me? Get off. When warnings failed, Jiang Chaoyang swung a punch toward Si Gonsa's face, knocking his glasses loose. They fell, landing on his chest. Furious, Jiang Chaoyang threw another punch. I said. Suddenly, a cool drop of liquid fell onto his face. Jiang Chaoyang froze. He reached up to touch it, then looked at Si Gonsa in disbelief. The other man hadn't moved, but a tear slid down from the corner of his eye, landing on Jiang Chaoyang's cheek. Jiang Chaoyang was stunned. Had he just made Si Gonsa cry? Crying won't work on me, he muttered, frowning as he turned his head away, refusing to look. But despite himself, his gaze kept flickering back. That tear only irritated him more. After a tense pause, Si Gonsa finally stood up. You can leave now. Jiang Chaoyang propped himself up, the remaining lens of his glasses slipping off and landing in his hand. He glanced at Si Gonsa, then at the glasses, the absurdity of the situation making him click his tongue in frustration as he ruffled his hair. Si Gonsa turned to leave, but his wrist was suddenly caught. He was pulled back and forced to bend down. His glasses were placed back onto his face. A grown man crying? Aren't you embarrassed? Jiang Chaoyang adjusted the glasses on him, his gaze briefly brushing over the small mole near the corner of Si Gonsa's eye. Normally hidden by the lenses, it was almost unnoticeable. Si Gonsa seemed aware of his scrutiny. His lashes quivered slightly. Jiang Chaoyang withdrew his hand, picked up the glasses chain, and hooked it back into place. What terms do you have to offer for my help? Lu Tingli won't let you leave. What? He's more despicable than you think. Si Gonsa adjusted his glasses. Jiang Chaoyang fell silent. And you? How do I know you're not lying to me? You don't, Si Gonsa admitted. But I can tell you a secret. He reached out, gripping the back of Jiang Chaoyang's neck, and leaned in close to whisper by his ear. Jiang Chaoyang's eyes widened in shock. Disbelief flashed across his face as he opened his mouth. Really? The room fell silent. Si Gonsa watched him, waiting for his response. Suddenly, a hand cupped Si Gonsa's face. Startled, Si Gonsa's eyes widened as Jiang Chaoyang pulled him closer, face to face. You're crying during your susceptible period? If word gets out, you'll be the laughingstock. Jiang Chaoyang wiped away his tears and stared at him. Fine, I'll help you, but you have to take me with you when you leave. Si Gonsa blinked, seeming to come back to himself. He pressed Jiang Chaoyang back down onto the bed by his waist. Deal. A faint smile tugged at his lips. Mini extra. Later that night, Jiang Chaoyang punched Si Gonsa in the face again, though it was a weak hit. He glared at him as if his eyes could pierce through him. Si Gonsa calmly removed his glasses, handing them to Jiang Chaoyang. Haven't you done this before? Why are you the one crying now? Screw you. Who's the one who pissed me off? Don't act clueless. The next morning, Xia Song stepped out and saw a man sitting on the couch. But what caught his attention was the figure behind the couch, Jiang Chaoyang, expertly using a curling iron on Lu Tingli's hair. Lu Tingli was typing on his keyboard, not even looking up, but nodded slightly in acknowledgement. Xia Song sat down and asked curiously, You know how to do that? Jiang Chaoyang nodded. I used to help out friends. Xia Song chuckled. What are you, a barber? Self-taught, Jiang Chaoyang replied, recalling the times he'd styled Rin Shuzhen's hair when she was running late. Back then, he'd learned to help out. The curls he created transformed Lu Tingli's previously straight, sleek hair into soft, natural waves, giving him a gentler look. Jun Shilin walked past, almost spitting out his drink at the sight. He dragged Niu Xiaoyu over, pointing at Jiang Chaoyang with a laugh. Niu Xiaoyu's face twisted in disgust, and he turned away. Jiang Chaoyang frowned. Am I the only one who thinks it looks good? Xia Song averted his gaze. Man or woman, it's an eyesore. Feeling awkward, Jiang Chaoyang clicked his tongue. Si Gonsa appeared silently, prompting Jiang Chaoyang to seek his opinion. Si Gonsa glanced at him, expression neutral. Why would you want to blind yourself? No need to torture yourself like this. At that moment, a hand clapped Jiang Chaoyang on the shoulder. Fan Mai leaned in. If you grew your hair out and styled it like that, it might actually look good on you. Jiang Chaoyang shuddered. You've got to be kidding me. Fan Mizai chimed in. I think he's onto something. Jiang Chaoyang shoved the two away, disgusted. Stay out of my space. Gross. Lu Tingli turned to him. Am I gross? Jiang Chaoyang quickly shook his head, brushing a strand of Lu Tingli's hair behind his ear. I didn't mean you. I just don't like long hair on myself. You, on the other hand, pull it off pretty well. Lu Tingli stared at the hand in his hair. You seem quite experienced with this. Jiang Chaoyang paused, realizing he'd treated him like a girl out of habit and was now unconsciously tidying his hair. The two stood face to face, the atmosphere growing awkward but strangely intimate. Lu Tingli's gaze swept over the others before returning to Jiang Chaoyang. Can you tie it up for me? Sure. Ignoring the stares around him, Jiang Chaoyang continued gathering Lu Tingli's hair. Lu Tingli lowered his head, focused on his keyboard, ignoring everyone else. A figure in a lab coat walked over, hands in his pockets, casting a casual glance at Jiang Chaoyang. The suppressant is ready, Yu Siren announced calmly. No one reacted much. Jun Shilin smirked faintly. How many versions is this now? Don't tell me it's as useless as last time. I've tested it on myself, Yu Siren replied flatly. Everyone instantly looked up. It's working. Jiang Chaoyang, who had just tied up his high ponytail, abruptly turned to Yu Siren with bright eyes and asked excitedly, Does this mean I can leave now? The hall fell silent. Unaware of the strange atmosphere, he let go of Lu Tingli's hair and sighed in relief. Finally, I can leave. In a good mood, he rolled his shoulders and smiled. Staying here is pointless. It's so boring. No one responded. Where's the exit? No need to see me off. Just point me in the right direction. He scanned the room eagerly. The atmosphere grew even stranger. The men around him stared at him intently. Each had distinct features, all strikingly handsome, yet exuding a suffocating pressure. They resembled hunters lying in wait, silently encircling the one prey trying to escape. Where do you think you're going? Jun Sherlin tilted his head, his voice soft, with a deep undertone. Jiang Chaoyang's smile froze as he turned to look at him in shock. The men stood still, their presence like an iron net trapping him in the center. Their eyes carried no overt threat, only a chilling calmness and control that made his heart race with unease. It was as if they weren't worried about him escaping at all. On the sofa, Xia Song lightly tapped his knee, his tone even gentler than Jun Sherlin's. "Tell us, where do you want to go?" "What do you mean?" Jiang Chaoyang asked warily. "Didn't you capture me just to get the inhibitor?" No one answered. He chuckled coldly. "The drug's done. You don't need me anymore. Why can't I leave?" Anger flared as he grabbed Fan Mizai by the collar and shouted, "Speak. What the hell do you want?" Fan Mizai didn't say a word. His lips curled into a cold, indifferent smile that unsettled Jiang Chaoyang even more. Suddenly, a wave of tension surged from behind. Jiang Chaoyang spun sideways to block, deflecting Fan Mixie's wrist with a dull thud. Fan Mixie wasn't annoyed. He shook his wrist and said, "If you won't let us touch you, why should we let you leave?" "What?" Jiang Chaoyang was stunned. "What kind of logic is that? What does not letting you touch me have to do with whether or not I can leave?" The Fan brothers sighed in exasperation, massaging their temples. Jiang Chaoyang stepped back, accidentally knocking over a vase on the table. The sharp sound of shattering filled the room. Everyone reacted instantly. Fan Mixie grabbed his wrist, his grip so tight it felt like the bone might snap. Jiang Chaoyang skillfully twisted out of the hold. Just as he broke free, an arm wrapped tightly around his waist. "Put me down!" He angrily rammed into Jun Sherlin's chest. "Are you out of your mind?" Jun Sherlin, unbothered by the impact, smiled and coaxed him softly. "Relax. If you want to leave the SA facility, that's fine." Jiang Chaoyang paused, suspicious. "What did you say?" "We'll take you out." He didn't believe it. "You just said I can't leave. Now what kind of game are you playing?" "No tricks. We're just relocating you to a new home. Naturally, you'll stay with us." He could leave, but not freely. "Screw your new home." Jiang Chaoyang leaned back with force, kicking toward Jun Sherlin's neck. Caught off guard by the unexpected attack, Jun Sherlin had no choice but to let go and dodge. He coughed lightly, rubbing his neck before cracking it back into place. "Wow, that really hurt." Fan Mizai crossed his arms and smirked, clearly enjoying the spectacle. "Quite feisty, isn't he?" Seizing the moment, Jiang Chaoyang prepared to run, but Xia Song casually stood up. With just one step, he blocked his path. Xia Song's peach blossom eyes curved slightly, his voice cold. "Careful, the floor's slippery. Don't fall." Jiang Chaoyang's arm was suddenly seized from the side by Miao Xiuyu, who locked his elbow joint. "There's no need to struggle anymore," Miao said indifferently. "Get off me!" Jiang Chaoyang cursed, thrashing violently. "You psychos! All you know is how to trap people." Miao Xiuyu ignored his insults, raising his knee to strike the back of Jiang Chaoyang's. His leg gave way, nearly causing him to collapse, but he gritted his teeth and refused to kneel completely. Suddenly, there was movement nearby. Before Jiang Chaoyang could react, Si Gongsa appeared in front of him. Before he could speak, Si Gongsa pressed firmly on the most sensitive spot on his lower back. Jiang Chaoyang immediately lost his balance, stumbling into Si Gongsa's arms. The embrace was cold and oppressive. He quickly pushed away, collapsing onto the carpet. As he caught his breath, several pairs of polished leather shoes slowly approached. Shadows loomed overhead, like an iron cage closing in. Terrified, Jiang Chaoyang scrambled backward, but several hands grabbed him simultaneously. Some pinned his shoulders, others gripped his wrists, one squeezed his thigh, and another leisurely combed through his sweat-dampened hair. They restrained his every move, forcing him into a state of complete helplessness, like a butterfly ensnared in a web. He gritted his teeth, struggling fiercely, his lips moving to hurl curses. Suddenly, a hand covered his mouth from behind. "Shoo," Xia Song murmured against his ear. "Be good, don't make a fuss." A strange scent filled the air, invading Jiang Chaoyang's senses. His body stiffened abruptly, his face flushing as his breathing grew hot and labored. His struggles weakened, his entire frame slowly going limp. Jiang Chaoyang collapsed onto the floor, his chest heaving as his eyes turned unfocused, reduced to faint, shallow gasps. He clumsily crawled forward, but after just a few steps, his ankle was grabbed, and he was dragged back to where he started. He resembled a toad with prey, entirely at the mercy of his captors. Light footsteps approached. Jiang Chaoyang forced himself to look up. Lu Tingli walked over. His high ponytail rested on his shoulder, a few strands of hair brushing his jawline. His eyes were cold as he stared down at Jiang Chaoyang. "I told you, I'd let you leave." Jiang Chaoyang closed his eyes. "But I can't guarantee they won't come near you." Fan Mazai, noticing his lack of reaction, sighed regretfully. Don't tell me he's passed out already? Jun Sherlin scanned Jiang Chaoyang's curled-up body. It's understandable, given how far we pushed him. Si Gongsa nodded in agreement. Maybe it's a reaction to the pheromones. Miao Xiuyu reached out to brush aside Jiang Chaoyang's hair, but his hand was slapped away with a sharp sound. Everyone froze. Jiang Chaoyang lay on his side, clutching his damp hair tightly. His knuckles were pale, and faint red marks still lingered on his face. He trembled slightly, but his gaze was sharp as a blade. Slowly, he raised his middle finger. All you know is how to scare people with pheromones, he rasped, his voice hoarse but full of mockery and defiance. Can't even get it up, huh? Still want to touch me? The air froze. The men's expressions darkened, anger surging as they glared at him, itching to crush this insolent prey beneath them. In that moment, reason shattered. Sunlight spilled across his face, pulling the groggy Jiang Chaoyang back to consciousness. He sat up slowly, stretching lazily, only to freeze when he noticed the sunlight streaming in through the window. Holy crap, sunlight! He wondered if he was still dreaming. Since when did the lower levels of the SA facility have sunlight? Just then, the door opened softly. Yu Siren walked in, carrying breakfast. He had swapped his lab coat for a white shirt and black pants. He placed the tray on the bedside table, and Jiang Chaoyang suddenly grabbed his wrist. They let me go? Could it be that what he did yesterday made them lose interest, so they decided to release him? Yu Siren didn't pull his hand away. After a few seconds of silence, he responded with a question. Let you go? He pulled his hand back, smoothing his sleeve. After what you said, how could they possibly let you go? Jiang Chaoyang froze and frowned. What? A couple of insults, and they can't take it? That's sensitive? Yu Siren's expression shifted, and he leaned in to say quietly, who could take what you said? Especially in front of that crowd. Jiang Chaoyang sensed something was wrong. What did I say? You don't remember? I was almost out of it because of Xiaoson's pheromones. At most, I cursed their ancestors up to the 18th generation, right? Yu Siren didn't respond, turning to leave. Jiang Chaoyang hurriedly threw off the blanket and got out of bed. Suddenly, there was a crisp, metallic clanking sound. Jiang Chaoyang paused mid-step, dismissing the noise as something from the bed frame. But after a few more steps, his foot caught on something, and he fell heavily. At the doorway, Yu Siren stopped, turned back, and looked at him. Jiang Chaoyang sat up, dumbfounded, and glanced at his right ankle. A silver chain was locked around it, the other end secured to a metal ring at the foot of the bed. The chain was just long enough to allow movement within the room. What the hell is this? Jiang Chaoyang was both shocked and furious. He tugged at the chain, the metal biting into his skin. He glared at Yu Siren. What's the meaning of this? Chaining me up? Are they insane? Was it just because he cursed at them? Yu Siren sighed, walked over, and scooped Jiang Chaoyang up. Still fuming, Jiang Chaoyang struggled, but Yu Siren simply placed him back on the bed. Jiang Chaoyang tried to kick, but Yu Siren caught his leg. It means they're not letting you go. The chain is to stop you from escaping, Yu Siren said, his fingers lightly brushing the chain. And a warning, don't waste your energy resisting. Jiang Chaoyang fell silent. By noon, the door swung open, almost hitting Han Shuochuan. Jiang Chaoyang's strike missed. Just as he reached for a cup, he stopped when he saw who it was. Why is it you? Han Shuochuan stepped inside, shut the door behind him, and looked him over. His gaze landed on the chain. Mr. Jiang, what's this new accessory? He walked closer. What did you do to make them put this on you? Without thinking, Jiang Chaoyang threw a punch at him. Han Shuochuan was ready and easily deflected it. He teased, feeling feisty today? One hand stayed in his pocket as he smiled. You don't look too comfortable. Jiang Chaoyang tried to pull his hand back but found it firmly gripped. He snapped, you didn't come here just to make fun of me, did you? Han Shuochuan's smile faded as he stepped even closer, closing the distance between them. Of course not. He lifted Jiang Chaoyang's chin with his fingers. I came to help you. Are you serious? He didn't answer immediately, instead pulling something slowly from his pocket and handing it to Jiang Chaoyang. Jiang Chaoyang's eyes widened as he snatched it. It was his phone. He powered it on. The battery was full, and the lock screen displayed thousands of missed calls and messages. Hide it well. Don't let them find it, Han Shuochuan cautioned. How did you get it? Jiang Chaoyang asked. It was Si Gongsa. Jiang Chaoyang froze. Hurry and contact whoever you need to. Have them come get you. Jiang Chaoyang nodded, just about to dial when Han Shuochuan suddenly added, but don't get your hopes up. Jiang Chaoyang looked up at him. Why not? Han Shuochuan leaned in, his finger brushing Jiang Chaoyang's chin playfully. Do you think your friends really dare to help you? He sneered. Don't forget, the S-grade inhibitors they need to survive their susceptibility periods are all under our control now. Jiang Chaoyang was silent. Inhibitors were critical for S-grade alphas. With the SA organization controlling them, they held everyone's weakness. Asking his friends for help would mean asking them to risk losing their inhibitors, effectively harming them as well. Han Shuochuan leaned in closer, pressing a hand against Jiang Chaoyang's shoulder and pushing him back onto the bed. Jiang Chaoyang gasped. You. He froze when he saw the look in Han Shuochuan's eyes. Those usually carefree blue eyes were now dark and stormy, devoid of their usual humor, filled with a worry and frustration he had never seen before. What else did they do to you? Han Shuochuan asked, his tone serious. He roughly tugged at Jiang Chaoyang's collar, his eyes scanning his skin. Nothing, Jiang Chaoyang sighed. Before he could finish, the hand on his shoulder suddenly pushed him down, his face pressing into the blanket, his voice muffled. He struggled to get up, but a hand held his head down. The next moment, his waist was grabbed and lifted. Jiang Chaoyang ended up kneeling on the bed, his knees pressing into the mattress, his upper body still lying down. His cheek brushed against the blanket, and panic surged within him. What the hell are you doing? He turned his head to look. As if things weren't bad enough, Han Shuochuan's hand had already grabbed the waistband of his pants. Jiang Chaoyang was utterly alarmed. He flailed his elbows backward. What the hell? Let go of me. Just checking, Han Shuochuan said seriously. What are you checking by pulling my pants down? Seeing that Han Shuochuan was serious about it, Jiang Chaoyang shouted in a panic, nothing happened. I swear they didn't do anything to me. Let go. Han Shuochuan paused for a few seconds. The tense atmosphere lingered before he finally let go. Then, Han Shuochuan wrapped his arms around Jiang Chaoyang from behind, holding him tightly. His arms encircled Jiang Chaoyang's waist and stomach, his chin resting in the crook of Jiang Chaoyang's neck. He didn't say a word, just held him tightly, as if afraid of something. He whispered, please get out of here soon, Mr. Jiang. Jiang Chaoyang was quiet for a moment. He raised a hand and ruffled Han Shuochuan's hair. All right. You still owe me tutoring. All right. At night. In the early hours. Moonlight cast a cold glow in the corner, reflecting off the chain around his ankle. Jiang Chaoyang sat on the edge of the bed, his phone screen glowing, illuminating his conflicted face. His contacts list was open, his finger hovering over the names. After a moment, he closed his eyes, swiped his thumb, and pressed the power button. The screen went dark instantly. Morning. Jiang Chaoyang lay stretched out on the couch, basking in the sunlight, a book in his hand. He wasn't sure if he was really reading it, but at least he was holding it. Click. The door suddenly opened, and he flinched, the book falling and landing on his face. He rubbed his nose and looked toward the door. As always, Siren walked in holding breakfast. Leaning lazily back, Jiang Chaoyang said, where are they? Why aren't they coming to see me? They're finishing up. They'll be here by noon. Jiang Chaoyang silently wished he could punch them all. Glancing at Siren's face unintentionally, he said, you look much better. Siren turned his head. What? Jiang Chaoyang pointed casually to his face. Your dark circles are lighter. Sleeping better? Siren stayed silent for a few seconds. Sensing the shift in mood, Jiang Chaoyang glanced over, confused. Siren took a seat, reached out, and brushed aside the messy hair on Jiang Chaoyang's forehead, revealing his resolute gaze. What's your friend's number? What for? Just tell me. Siren's voice was calm. I'll call them and explain your situation here. Jiang Chaoyang stayed quiet, his mouth twitching as he averted his gaze. Forget it. I can't risk them losing access to the inhibitors. S-class inhibitors are a survival necessity for S-class alphas, an asset not easily forfeited. Afternoon. Jiang Chaoyang sat at the dining table, chewing slowly on a meal that had no flavor. His gaze swept across the living room, where the culprits moved busily. Someone typed on a laptop, another made calls on the balcony, while others scrolled through their phones, handling various matters. The living room was unusually quiet, like a gathering of elite professionals each focused on their own tasks. Jiang Chaoyang pulled his attention back, bored, and began shaking his leg. The chain on his ankle clinked, a crisp sound that continually reminded him of his predicament. Anger flared up again, and he abruptly kicked toward Jun Shilin. Jun Shilin, unfazed by the kick, turned with a grin. We just want you to spend more time with us. Jiang Chaoyang's face darkened. You're all insane. Ha, you finally noticed? Their casual admission left Jiang Chaoyang speechless, his frustration stuck in his chest. Suddenly, a beautifully crafted glass of liquor was placed in front of him. Jun Shilin, seemingly out of nowhere, held up a glass of whiskey, swirling it slightly. "Want a drink?" Jiang Chaoyang stared at the glass, unable to look away. How long had it been since he last had a drink? He used to love drinking, but ever since being taken to the SA agency, he hadn't even had a sip of soda, let alone booze. "Relax, there's nothing fake in it." Jun Shilin's voice was as soft as a breeze. Jiang Chaoyang's vigilance quickly shattered under his craving, and without much thought, he took the glass and downed it in one gulp. Watching him drink so recklessly, Jun Shilin's smile deepened. Nothing added, just as I said." He picked up the now empty glass, his fingertip brushing the spot Jiang Chaoyang's lips had touched, and casually remarked, "Though I did take a sip." "You don't mind, do you?" Jiang Chaoyang shrugged indifferently. "Doesn't matter. I've even had Gabriel's drinks. Who cares?" The moment he said that, several glances subtly shifted toward him from around the room. Even Lu Tingli paused his typing. Jun Shilin raised an eyebrow, his smile playful. "Oh? You know Gabriel?" Jiang Chaoyang shot back, "Why wouldn't I? You think I'm beneath him?" Seeing Jiang Chaoyang unwilling to elaborate, Jun Shilin didn't press further. Instead, he leisurely poured another glass. Swirling the liquor just out of reach, he teased, "So how many S-Class Alphas do you know?" Jiang Chaoyang found the question baffling. "Why do you want to know?" "Just curious." Jun Shilin waved the glass temptingly. "Tell me, and it's yours." Jiang Chaoyang gave a half-hearted reply, "I don't know, maybe 10 or so. I've lost count." Before he even finished speaking, he snatched the glass and drank it all. 10 or so? Jun Shilin's smile froze. Jiang Chaoyang drank too quickly, the whiskey trickled from the corner of his lips down his chin. As he instinctively reached to wipe it, a napkin was already there, dabbing the liquid away. He froze, turning to see who it was. "So you knew everyone in that private room," Si Gonsa casually remarked as he tossed the napkin into the trash, his words sinking heavily into Jiang Chaoyang's chest. He thought to himself, walking into the wrong room seemed to have been the start of all this trouble. Bang! A loud pounding on the door echoed, so forceful it seemed ready to break through the wood. Closest to the door, Xiasong frowned, setting his laptop aside to answer it. A quick glance at the visitors caused Jiang Chaoyang's eyes to widen in shock. Xiasong asked, "Who are you looking for?" Before he could finish, he was shoved aside with such force that he nearly fell onto the couch. The three men outside rushed in, their excitement palpable. "Bro!" Jiang Chaoyang was overjoyed. Zhan Xingli grabbed his arm, anxiously inspecting him. "Bro, are you okay? Are you hurt anywhere?" Ling Niyi was even more aggressive. "What did they do to you? Tell me, and I'll kill them." Luoichi's gaze swept over Jiang Chaoyang, landing on the silver chain around his right ankle, glinting coldly under the light. Jiang Chaoyang replied calmly, "I'm fine. How did you find me?" Zhan Xingli stammered. "And that on your ankle?" Luoichi asked suddenly. Everyone followed his gaze downward.